Chapter 495. Looking at the confident Silverblade, Li Shan's irritable mood suddenly recovered. Silverblade, are you sure? Silverblade nodded. Protector, don't worry. As long as we don't agree, he will definitely agree to our conditions. Li Shan nodded and suddenly asked, Silverblade, what if they don't agree? What should we do? Silverblade shook his head and replied, they will definitely agree. Li Shan stared at Silverblade. After a while, he suddenly sighed, Silverblade, if they don't agree to your conditions, they might even take the opportunity to kill you. What should we do then? Hearing this, Silverblade froze for a moment. He then shook his head and sneered, don't worry, Protector, they won't dare to do anything. Hearing Silverblade's answer, Li Shan impatiently asked, I'm saying if your conditions are too high and Water Spirit and Fire Spirit can't accept it and kill you. At that time, what will you do? Hearing this, Silverblade suddenly felt sad. Even if they kill me, I won't change my conditions. Hearing Silverblade's answer, Li Shan secretly sighed. He knew that in front of a huge prophet, Silverblade had already gone crazy. However, Li Shan didn't look down on Silverblade because of this, because he was also like this. At the beginning, when he wanted to appear, he heard the conversation between Silverblade and Water Spirit. He was also attracted by the level 20 equipment, so he didn't appear. In the end, when he heard the name of the level 25 equipment, Li Shan's heart was beating wildly. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. If he could get a level 25 equipment, Li Shan believed that he would be seriously injured by them. This was the reason why Li Shan didn't appear. Now Li Shan had two choices. One was to accept Water Spirit's conditions and get a level 20 equipment. If he could get a level 20 equipment, Li Shan would be very satisfied. However, behind the level 20 equipment, there was a level 25 equipment hidden among them. Thinking of the level 25 equipment, Li Shan felt his heart beat faster. Thinking of himself wearing a level 25 equipment, how glorious it would be! What should he choose? Should he agree to Water Spirit's request, or should he continue to insist on that level 25 equipment? If he agreed to Water Spirit's conditions, then he would be able to obtain level 20 equipment. However, Li Mingshan wasn't so sure about level 25 equipment. Li Mingshan's experience was naturally broader than Silverknife's. He was very clear on how precious a level 25 equipment was. It was precisely because of this that Li Mingshan didn't dare to guarantee that he would be able to obtain the level 25 equipment if he persisted. If they persevered until the end, not only would they fail to obtain level 25 equipment, but they would also fail to obtain level 20 equipment from the workshop. That would truly be a loss. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan became more hesitant. At this moment, Li Shan suddenly realized that the level 20 equipment that he had always desired was no longer that important. Although Li Shan was the protector of the Godly Knife faction, it didn't mean that he had level 20 equipment. He had only seen other people wearing level 20 equipment, but now he was actually looking down on level 20 equipment. This was all because of the level 25 equipment, which made Li Mingshan's heart become high. Li Mingshan looked at Silverknife in front of him and subconsciously asked, Silverknife, are you sure? Silverknife nodded his head with difficulty. Yes, I am sure. Hearing Silverknife's answer, Li Mingshan suddenly clenched his teeth. At worst, he would give up that level 20 equipment. As long as he could obtain level 25 equipment, everything would be worth it. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan suddenly turned his head to look at Water Spirit and faintly smiled. Water Spirit, you see, I have no other choice. Although I promised you that I would use level 20 equipment to solve this matter, Silverknife doesn't agree. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan's tone paused for a moment before continuing. How about this, you talk to Silverknife yourself. If he agrees, then this matter will naturally be solved smoothly. If he doesn't agree, then I have no other choice. In fact, even if she didn't hear Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit already knew what the result of this matter would be. The conversation between Li Mingshan and Silverknife was clearly heard by Water Spirit. She already understood that Li Mingshan was tempted by level 25 equipment. Knowing this result, Water Spirit could only sigh. There was really nothing she could do. She originally thought that Li Mingshan was a rational person. As the protector of the Godly Knife faction, he should know what he could obtain and what he couldn't. However, Water Spirit never thought that a protector of the Godly Knife faction would be infected by a madman. Li Mingshan's originally rational mind actually became irrational after talking to Silverknife. In fact, Water Spirit was very clear that if Li Mingshan used his identity as the protector of the Godly Knife faction to suppress Silverknife, then Silverknife would definitely give in and agree to the conditions they just discussed. However, Li Mingshan didn't insist. Not only did he not persuade Silverknife, he was persuaded by Silverknife. Water Spirit looked up at Li Mingshan and slowly said, "Li Mingshan, this decision, you will regret it." Li Mingshan shook his head. "No, because this is not my decision, it is Silverknife's decision. Therefore, I won't regret it. Even if I regret it, it should be Silverknife who regrets it." Water Spirit sneered. "I didn't think that you would not be satisfied with a level 20 equipment. Don't you know that it is not good to be too greedy?" Li Mingshan shook his head. "Water Spirit, you don't need to say these words to me. If there is anything you want to talk to Silverknife, as long as you come to an agreement, then we will agree to it." Water Spirit turned to look at Silverknife and sighed. "Don't you see that Silverknife has gone crazy?" As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, before Li Mingshan could reply, Yin Dao roared, "Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. How am I crazy? I think you're the crazy one." Silverknife paused for a moment before continuing, "Water Spirit, you don't need to care if I am crazy or not. I just want to tell you that I will not change my level 25 equipment." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Shui Lingzi shook her head, then turned to Li Mingshan and sneered. "He's already gone crazy. Do you want to go crazy with him?" Li Mingshan laughed. "Water Spirit, if I don't agree to your conditions, then I am crazy? Isn't this too ridiculous?" Water Spirit sneered. "It doesn't matter if you agree to my conditions or not. What is important is that the conditions you are asking for, don't you think it is ridiculous? Level 25 equipment, I will not agree to it." Chapter 496. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan shook his head. "I don't know about these things and I don't want to know. The only thing I can do is to protect the disciples of the Godly Sword sect from being harmed by you. Other than that, it's a matter between the two of you. I don't want to get involved." After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and turned to look at Yin Dao. She coldly said, "Yin Dao, can't you change your conditions?" Yin Dao saw that Li Shan was making the decision for him and his heart was filled with confidence. After hearing Shui Lingzi's question, he immediately replied with a cold smile, "Shui Lingzi, my conditions won't change. Unless you can take out level 25 equipment, there's nothing to talk about." Shui Lingzi looked deeply at Yin Dao and suddenly turned to Fire Spirit's side and said with a laugh, "It seems like our trip today was in vain. Since we can't meet their conditions, then let's forget about today's matter." After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned to Wu Lai and Du Wudai and cupped her fists. "Two seniors, I can't solve this matter anymore. So, the agreement we talked about can't be fulfilled. So, I ask for your understanding. All of the conditions we talked about are now null and void." After everyone heard Shui Lingzi's words, they were all stunned. The field fell into silence, and only the crackling sound of the bonfire could be heard. After a while, Du Wudai suddenly jumped in front of Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, what do you mean by this? You clearly agreed on the conditions just now. Are you going back on your words in the blink of an eye?" Shui Lingzi shook her head. It's not that I'm not going back on my words. The conditions we talked about just now were for you to ignore the matter between us and Kikyaman. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Now you can see that for some reason, I'm giving up on taking away Kikyaman's people. Naturally, the conditions we talked about before don't count. Shadowless suddenly sneered and said, This doesn't seem right. Since you already promised us, why would you go back on your words? Are you looking down on us? Water Spirit shook her head. I definitely didn't mean that. If I looked down on you, I wouldn't have used equipment as a condition, but, at this point, Water Spirit turned to look at Silver Blade before continuing. Brother Shadowless, you heard it too. Silver Blade of the Godly Blade sect wants me to give him a level 25 equipment as compensation for his injuries, but I can't do it, so I'll give up on this plan. Shadowless sneered. Shui Lingzi, giving up on the plan is your business, it has nothing to do with us. Since you promised us, then you have to keep your word. Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Water Spirit waved her hand indifferently. Brother Shadowless, it's up to you. Just now, it was because I wanted to take away the 7 skills sex people that I agreed to your conditions. But now that I've given up, our conditions are naturally null and void. If you have any objections, go ahead and do it, it has nothing to do with me. At this moment, Silver Blade was dumbfounded. The reason why he was able to negotiate with Shui Lingzi was because she wanted to take away Kikyaman. But he never thought that Shui Lingzi would give up. If Shui Lingzi gave up on this plan, then it would be very disadvantageous for him. If Shui Lingzi gave up on taking away Kikyaman's people, then his injuries would have been in vain. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was also shocked. The thing he was most worried about had happened. If Shui Lingzi went back on her words, then not to mention the level 25 equipment, even the level 20 equipment would be gone. When Shui Lingzi and Silver Blade were negotiating, he also heard it clearly. As long as the Godly Blade sect didn't care about this matter, then they could have gotten 2 level 20 equipment. But now, because they were too greedy, they couldn't get anything. Seeing everyone's expression, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. A bunch of greedy people, since I can't feed you, then I won't feed you anymore. The scene fell into silence again. Even Shadowless had nothing to say. Because he really had nothing to say. He couldn't take the initiative to let Shui Lingzi take away Kikyaman's people. Shui Lingzi's change of heart caught everyone off guard. For a moment, they didn't know how to react. Among everyone, the happiest was of course Sun Qiao. As long as the Heavenly Palace sect didn't take them away, then they would be safe. Zhang Meng continued to watch with great interest because he knew that this matter wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. Time passed bit by bit, but the scene was still silent. No one spoke, because everyone was thinking about what to do next. Shui Lingzi couldn't meet everyone's conditions, so he had no other choice but to wait. The rest of the people also had the same idea. They all wanted to take away Kikyaman's people, but they all knew that this matter wasn't easy to accomplish. 6 pieces of level 20 equipment were not enough to satisfy everyone. Who among the people present could offer a better deal? Looking at the silent Shui Lingzi, Li Mingshan wanted to make peace several times, but he couldn't open his mouth. This was because he wasn't sure if Shui Lingzi would still talk to him if he tried again. Yin Dao was indeed heavily injured by Fire Spirit, but so what? Yin Dao was only an ordinary disciple of the Godly Sword sect. Even if he was injured, it wouldn't cause a fight between the two sections. Maybe this matter could be turned into a small one, and a small one into nothing. At this moment, Yin Dao, who had been sitting there quietly all this time, suddenly shouted. Shui Lingzi, you injured me. Today, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, the Godly Sword sect won't let you go. Hearing Yin Dao's shout, Shui Lingzi only turned her head and coldly looked at him. Yin Dao, I advise you to save your energy and quickly heal your injuries. Otherwise, when your injuries worsen, it will be too late to regret. Yin Dao loudly shouted, My injuries don't need you to care. I just want you to compensate me. You must give me the level 25 equipment. Hearing Yin Dao's hysterical shouts, Fire Spirit suddenly sneered and said, Yin Dao brat, you should save your energy. You're lucky today. After today, you'll see what happens. Hearing Fire Spirit's threatening words, Yin Dao wasn't afraid at all. He loudly said, Fire Spirit, you don't need to scare me. I'm not afraid of you. If you don't compensate me today, the protectors of the Godly Sword sect won't let you go. Fire Spirit turned his head and looked at Li Mingshan. He coldly laughed and said, Li Mingshan, you should take care of this madman. Don't let him shout and cause trouble. Chapter 497. After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshan was furious. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly sighed and turned to look at Yin Dao. His heart was a bit annoyed. If it wasn't for this idiot, how could things have turned out like this? If they let Water Spirit compensate them with 2 pieces of level 20 equipment and another piece of level 20 equipment, that would be 3 pieces of level 20 equipment. With these 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, when they go back, they would definitely be praised by the sect master. But now, the benefits just now were like a dream. After waking up from the dream, there was nothing left. Not a single piece of equipment. It was all Yin Dao's fault. If it wasn't for him, these 3 pieces of level 20 equipment would have been easily obtained. At this moment, the thought that just appeared in Li Mingshan's mind once again rushed out. Hurry up, don't hesitate. This kid is too annoying. If it wasn't for him, how could things have turned out like this? Hurry up and beat him into a pulp so that he can't say those annoying words again. Li Mingshui suddenly came to Li Mingshan's side and lowered his voice. Big brother, how about I go talk to Water Spirit and agree to his request? After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Li Mingshan looked at Water Spirit and shook his head. If it was us who brought it up first, do you think Water Spirit would agree? Li Mingshui anxiously said, Are we just going to let it go like this? Li Mingshan sighed, We don't have a choice. If I'm not wrong, if you took the initiative to talk to Water Spirit, I'm afraid he would only give you a piece of level 15 equipment. As for level 20 equipment, I'm afraid it's impossible. Li Mingshui heard this and angrily said, How can this be? They already promised us, how can they go back on their words? Li Mingshan sighed, It's not them who went back on their words, it's us who went back on our words. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshui was stunned for a moment and then sighed. They did go back on their words. Water Spirit had already agreed to give them a piece of level 20 equipment and Li Mingshan had also agreed. But after Li Mingshan and Yin Dao talked for a while, they actually didn't agree. Thinking of this, Li Mingshui angrily looked at Yin Dao. Big brother, what did this kid just say to you? Why did you listen to him? Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Li Mingshan's face turned red. He clearly knew that Yin Dao was a madman, but he actually believed the words of this madman. Didn't this mean that he was worse than a madman? But to say that, to say, regret to no avail, Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshan's to look to see to say, if I didn't listen to him, then it would's to say to Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan to Li Mingshui, Yin to Mingshan to Mingshui to say, at Li Ming. Li Mingshan to say, Yin Li to say, Li to S to Li to say, to the to be to say, to be the way of the Li Mingyi? Li Ming Li. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi turned to look at him and lightly said, This matter doesn't seem to have anything to do with a lowly disciple like you. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao froze for a moment. Soon, anger began to rise from the bottom of his heart. Water Spirit, you dare to look down on me? Li Mingshan sneered. You're right, you're just a small disciple of the Godly Blade sect. If it wasn't for the fact that you're pitiful, do you think I would waste my time talking to you? Speaking to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. Although I pity you, you don't know what's good for you. You can't tell good from bad, so I can't do anything about it. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao's face turned ashen. He wanted to get up from the ground, but his injuries were too heavy. Even sitting up consumed all of his strength, so it was impossible for him to stand up. Yin Dao tried for a long time, but was unable to stand up. Helplessly, he could only sit there and take a few deep breaths. Then he turned to Li Mingshan and angrily said, Li Mingshan, I'm telling you, if you don't give me level 25 equipment today, you won't have a good time. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshan slowly walked in front of him and sneered, Yin Dao, if I don't compensate you, what will you do to me? Will you hit me? Scold me? Haha. Fire Spirit and Silver Saber, who were laughing at the sky, said coldly, I will report this matter to our sect master and let him know how the people of the Heavens Craftsman faction bullied the disciples of the Godly Saber faction. When the time comes, when the Godly Blade sect and the Tiangongmen go to war, let's see if you can still laugh. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshan stopped laughing and said with disdain, Yin Dao brat, with just you? Yin Dao gritted his teeth. If I'm not enough, there are still 2 protectors of the Godly Blade sect. They will testify for me. Li Mingshan nodded. All right then, go back and tell them. I'll wait for your good news. Seeing Li Mingshan's nonchalant attitude, Yin Dao became anxious. He quickly turned to Li Mingshan and said loudly, Li Mingshan, if you don't agree to my conditions, then don't even think about taking away Kikiaman's people today. Li Mingshan sighed. Yin Dao, you should wake up from your dream. Didn't you hear that I gave up? Do you know what it means to give up? In other words, I gave up on taking away Kikiaman's people. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. But then he continued to shout, Li Mingshan, don't lie to me. You want to take away Kikiaman's people. Although you said that you won't take them away, I believe that you will find a chance to do so. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshan nodded. That's right, that's what I was thinking. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, I'll wait here for a chance. Once all of you leave, I'll naturally take away the small sex people. This way, I won't waste a single piece of equipment and I can also take away Kikiaman's people. Isn't this killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan sighed. What a pity. I didn't even give away my 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. Who can I blame for this? Yin Dao sneered. Li Mingshan, as long as you want to take away Kikiaman's people, then I'll fight you until the end. I won't let you take away any of Kikiaman's people. Shui Lingzi shook her head and turned to look at Yin Dao. She sneered and said, You think you can do that? Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, I don't think that's possible. You've suffered such heavy injuries. If you don't treat them quickly, I believe that you won't last long. You'll be finished before we take away Kikiaman. Chapter 498. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao clenched his teeth and snapped. Shui Lingzi, you don't need to scare me. I'll be fine for a while, but you, if you don't bring him over, I'm afraid your position will be unstable. Haha. Looking at the crazy Yin Dao, Shui Lingzi sighed and slowly walked in front of Yin Dao and whispered, Yin Dao, why are you doing this? If you don't hurry up and treat your condition, even if you get a level 25 equipment, it won't be of any use. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, why don't you think about it? Why do you want level 25 equipment? Isn't it so that you can have a bright future? But if your martial arts are crippled, how will you be able to stand out? Even if you are valued by the Godly Knife Sex Patriarch, do you think he will let you be called the Godly Knife Sex Patriarch? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao's face finally changed. He took a few deep breaths and wanted to say something to comfort himself, but when he opened his mouth, he couldn't say anything. If he really became a cripple, then it would really be over. Dao was also very clear about this point. He was just restraining himself from thinking about it. But when Shui Lingzi said it, this question immediately circled around his mind. Dao could feel that his injuries were very serious. Although he could barely sit up, the pain from his internal organs didn't make him feel good. Feeling his injuries, Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. A thought emerged in his mind. Why did he do this? After getting the level 25 equipment, he would give it to the godly knife sex patriarch and ask him to accept him as a disciple. With his injuries, every breath would bring him intense pain. With such heavy injuries, could he really hold on until that moment? As he thought about it, Silver Knife felt a surge of emotions. Then, he felt a sweetness in his throat and a wave of heat spurted out from his mouth. Shui Lingzi looked at Dao with some pity and sighed. Dao, as a person, you must know your own strengths and weaknesses. You must learn how to seize opportunities. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, but this opportunity is definitely not an opportunity like today. This is not an opportunity, this is the door to hell for you. If it wasn't for the fact that you were as helpless as I was back then, I'm afraid you would have been killed long ago. Water Spirit sighed again. Dao, you should think about it carefully. What will you do in the future? As Dao listened to Shui Lingzi's words, his internal organs began to churn. After spitting out that mouthful of blood, not only did it not alleviate this feeling, it seemed to have become even more serious. Waves of heat continued to surge into his throat, causing Dao to be unable to bear it any longer and spit out another mouthful of blood. Seeing Dao spit out another mouthful of blood and his complexion become dim, Shui Lingzi was shocked. He had already seen that Silver Knife was forcing himself to persevere, so his injury was temporarily suppressed. However, when he was in a trance, his injury began to worsen. If he didn't hurry and treat him, Dao would probably faint after spitting out a few more mouthfuls of blood. Seeing Dao's lifeless eyes staring blankly at him, his body softened and was about to collapse to the ground again, Shui Lingzi sighed and suddenly reached out a hand and placed it on Dao's shoulder. With a thought, a strong stream of Zhen Qi was released from Shui Lingzi's palm and slowly poured into Dao's shoulder. As this stream of Zhen Qi entered, in just a moment, Dao's deathly pale face regained a little bit of color. Seeing that Dao was fine for the time being, Shui Lingzi slowly withdrew her hand. Using Zhen Qi to save people was very effective, but no one would do it because every time they saved someone, it would consume a lot of Zhen Qi and it would take a lot of time to recover. The reason why Shui Lingzi intervened was because she saw the helpless look in Dao's eyes and subconsciously wanted to help. Shui Lingzi's actions were also seen by Li Mingshan on the side, but he didn't stop Shui Lingzi because he also hoped that things would develop this way. Because of Dao's stubbornness, the two sides had reached a deadlock. This problem could have been solved with a level 20 equipment, but Dao insisted on a level 25 equipment. This matter had reached a deadlock. If at this moment, Dao and Shui Lingzi reconciled and went back to the previous transaction, and Shui Lingzi once again took out the level 20 equipment, this matter would have a perfect ending. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan's mouth curved into a smile, and he immediately walked towards Shui Lingzi. Coming to Shui Lingzi's side, Li Mingshan sighed. Dao's injuries are really heavy. Thank you for your help just now, otherwise Dao would really be dead. Shui Lingzi shook her head. I didn't save him, and his injuries haven't healed yet. I think you should treat him as soon as possible. If this continues, Dao will be crippled. Li Mingshan nodded and suddenly turned to Shui Lingzi and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, can we talk about the matter just now? I think Dao should have thought it through and this matter should be solved very well. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but sneer in her heart. Just now, when they were rushing to beg them, they were all very arrogant. Now that they were ignoring them, they took the initiative to lower their conditions. Although Shui Lingzi was somewhat disdainful of Li Mingshan, her expression didn't change. Even if she heard Li Mingshan's words, she only lightly nodded and didn't say anything. Seeing Shui Lingzi's expression, Li Mingshan could only secretly sigh. He blamed himself for listening to Yin Dao's words and wanting to obtain a level 25 equipment. Although Shui Lingzi didn't say anything, Li Mingshan wanted to continue this matter. He turned to look at Yin Dao and asked in a deep voice, "Yin Dao, what do you think?" Yin Dao didn't immediately answer Li Mingshan's question because he was feeling very uncomfortable right now. Although water spirit temporarily suppressed the churning of his internal organs, she didn't heal his injuries. His vision was still blurry, and the pain was constantly stimulating his mind. Even if he wanted to speak, he couldn't do so for a while. Looking at Yin Dao's painful expression, Li Mingshan subconsciously took out the godly sword Sek's holy healing medicine. Just as he was about to hand it over to Yin Dao, he suddenly stopped. This godly sword Sek's holy healing medicine was incomparably precious. Even he only had 3 of them. The godly sword Sek's healing medicine was also divided into grades. The healing medicine used by ordinary disciples was very slow due to the raw materials used. It could only stop pain and stop bleeding. It would take a long time to recover. The middle grade healing medicine was the one in Li Mingshan's hand. Chapter 499. The effect of this medicine was very fast. After taking it, it wouldn't take long for the pain to stop, stabilizing the injury and preventing it from worsening. Holding the godly sword Sek's medicine, Li Shan hesitated, wondering if he should give it to Yin Dao. Li Shan didn't care about the medicine, but was wondering if he should heal Yin Dao's injury. If there were no accidents after Yin Dao ate this medicine, even if it couldn't completely heal his injury would be much better in a short time. Although it was a good thing that Yin Dao's injury was healed, but what if Shui Lingzi didn't admit it? Li Shan was worried about this, so he hesitated. Looking at the medicine in Li Shan's hand, Shui Lingzi sneered. Li Shan was hesitating. Obviously, he didn't want to treat Yin Dao. Shui Lingzi wasn't in a hurry, because at this point, it didn't matter if she healed Yin Dao or not. All of this was set up to prevent Shui Lingzi from taking away Kikyaman. If Shui Lingzi gave up on this plan, then everything would be fine. So Shui Lingzi wasn't in a hurry, because she knew that even if she was anxious, it would be useless. If she messed things up because of her anxiety, then that would be the worst thing. Just as Li Shan was hesitating, Yin Dao suddenly shouted, "Lord Protector, I won't take the medicine. If I take the medicine, then there will be no evidence." Hearing this, Li Mingshan was taken aback at first, but soon, a smile appeared on his face and he quickly put away the medicine before turning to look at Shui Lingzi. At this moment, after hearing Yin Dao's words, besides sighing in her heart, she really didn't have anything to say. In order to have evidence, he was willing to give up his life. What kind of thinking was this? Yin Dao took a few deep breaths, then turned to Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, I don't want you to heal me, and you still have to give me my equipment, cough cough." Before Yin Dao could finish, he was interrupted by a violent cough. Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao, then turned to Li Shan and said with a bitter smile, "This Yin Dao is really a good disciple of your godly sword sect." Li Shan shook his head slightly, but didn't answer Shui Lingzi's words, and only asked Yin Dao, "Yin Dao, your injury is too serious. If you don't hurry up and treat it, then it will be too late. I think, let Shui Lingzi take out a level 20 equipment to compensate you." "No, cough cough." As soon as Li Shan finished speaking, Yin Dao shouted anxiously, but in a hurry, he started coughing again. After a while, Silver Knife felt slightly better. He said in a low voice, "No, I've suffered such heavy injuries. I need to have level 25 equipment." Otherwise, I definitely won't agree. At this moment, Shadowless slowly walked up to Silver Knife and said, "Little brother, there's no need to be so stubborn. Having a piece of level 20 equipment is not a bad choice." Dao turned to Dao and said angrily, "My business is none of your business." Dao smiled and shook his head. "Your temper is really interesting. You know it's impossible, but you still want to do it. Interesting." Dao said angrily, "I know what I'm doing, I hope you won't say it again." After being reprimanded by Dao twice, Dao's face changed, then he suddenly sneered. "Dao, do you think Shui Lingzi will give you a level 25 equipment? Stop dreaming. Have you ever seen a level 25 equipment? Ridiculous, you know it's impossible, but you still want to do it. Is there something wrong with your brain?" Hearing Dao's words, Dao was furious. He struggled to get up and fight Dao, but he couldn't. He tried, but not only couldn't he get up, but he also started coughing again. After coughing for a while, Dao's stomach started to churn again, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Dao felt better after spitting out this mouthful of blood, and he said angrily, "Dao, what I do is my own business, I hope you won't meddle in other people's business." Dao shook his head. "Who cares about your business, but your stubbornness is affecting me, so I'm here to remind you." At this moment, Wu Kedi also came to the group and nodded after hearing Dao's words. Wu Kedi was different from Dao. He didn't talk to Dao, but instead turned to Li Shan and sneered. "Li Shan, your godly knife faction is really full of talents. I didn't expect you to have such an elite." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan couldn't keep his face straight. He turned to look at Wu Kedi and sneered. "Wu Kedi, it's not up to an outsider like you to decide who our godly knife faction is." Wu Kedi shook his head. "What Dao said is right, we had already agreed on the terms, but you guys ruined it and caused us to lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Don't tell me this has nothing to do with us?" Before Li Mingshan could reply, Shadowless sneered, "You're right. This brat caused us to lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. We can't just let him go like this." Wu Kedi looked at Dao and smiled. "That's right, we can't just let this go. The godly knife faction must give us an explanation." Li Shan's face changed when he heard the two of them say that. Among the people who came today, the Wu family and Dao were the strongest. The Wu family had Wu Lai, so Li Shan and Li Mingshui couldn't compare to them. On Dao's side, Du Wudai was the leader, and his strength was about the same as the Wu family's. Under such circumstances, even if the godly knife faction had Li Shan and Li Mingshui, they definitely wouldn't be a match for the Wu family and Dao. However, even if the godly knife faction wasn't as strong as the Wu family and Dao, would Li Shan be afraid? Impossible. The godly knife faction was strong, and in the entire south region, only the Sky Sword faction could compare to them. Although the Wu family and Dao were strong, the godly knife faction definitely wouldn't be afraid of them. Li Shan suddenly sneered. He turned to look at Wu Kedi, then at Shadowless, and asked indifferently, "What, you guys still want to fight with the godly knife faction?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi and Dao's faces changed at the same time, and they looked at each other subconsciously. After a while, Wu Kedi laughed and said, "Fight? Why do we have to fight? We're all from the South County, why do we have to fight? We're here to ask for an explanation. We can't lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment because of you, right?" After saying this, Wu Kedi turned to look at Shadowless. Chapter 500. Wu Kedi looked at Shadowless and said with a smile, "Brother Shadowless, am I right?" Shadowless hurriedly replied with a smile, "Of course. Water Spirit has already promised each of us 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, but because of you, we lost a total of 4 pieces of level 20 equipment. Shouldn't the Godly Sword Gate give us an explanation?" Hearing Wu Kudi and Shadowless reply, Li Shan sneered in his heart. He knew that Wu Kudi and Shadowless didn't want to be enemies with the Godly Sword Clan. The reason why they didn't want to be enemies with the Godly Sword Clan was because of their strength. They didn't dare. Thinking of this, Li Shan sneered, "You losing equipment is your own problem. What does it have to do with the Godly Sword Clan?" Seeing that Li Shan didn't admit his mistake, Wu Kudi couldn't help but frown. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked in a deep voice, "Li Shan, do you really think that we'll just let this go?" Li Shan sneered, "If we don't let this go, what else do you want?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kudi couldn't hold it in anymore and said angrily, "Li Shan, are you looking down on the Wu clan?" Li Shan shook his head. "Brother Wu, how could I look down on the famous Wu clan? I just want to tell you that the equipment issue has nothing to do with the Godly Sword Clan. Even if you want to look for trouble, you should look for the Tiangongmen. They went back on their words, and that is their responsibility. Don't look for the wrong person." Hearing this, Fire Spirit on the side was furious. He took a step forward and said angrily, "Li Shan, if it wasn't for the Godly Sword Clan, how could things have developed to this point? What does it have to do with the Tiangongmen?" Li Shan turned to look at Fire Spirit and sneered, "You promised the Wu clan and Shadowless 4 pieces of level 20 equipment. Why didn't you fulfill your promise? Does it have anything to do with the Godly Sword Clan?" Fire Spirit pointed at the silver knife on the ground and said angrily, "If it wasn't for this brat, our problem would have been solved long ago. How can you blame the Tiangongmen?" Li Mingxue suddenly took a step forward and arrived in front of Fire Spirit. "Fire Spirit, why are you so angry?" At this point, Li Mingxue paused for a moment before continuing, "Fire Spirit, it's all because of your anger that Silver Knife was heavily injured. If it wasn't for you, why would Yin Dao ask you for compensation? It's your problem if you Tiangongmen can't afford the compensation. How can you blame us Tiangongmen?" Fire Spirit said angrily, "I admit that Silver Sword is injured, but you can't ask me for level 25 equipment. Isn't this a joke?" Li Mingxue sneered, "Are you kidding? Since you dared to injure him, you must be prepared to compensate." At this point, Li Mingxue paused and sneered again before continuing, "Since you Tiangongmen can't afford the compensation, why are you still so angry? Why did you have to injure him?" Fire Spirit pointed at Silver Knife and shouted, "This brat is so hateful. Do you want me to endure this brat? I can't do it. If it happens again, I'll still beat him up." After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingxue immediately gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Fire Spirit, you're really good. I admire you." After saying this, Li Mingxue's expression changed. He snorted, "Since you're so good, why didn't you be good when you compensated? I'm really curious." After hearing Li Mingxue's words, Fire Spirit was about to say something, but he was stopped by Water Spirit. Water Spirit turned to look at Li Mingxue and said, "No matter what, we can't afford Silver Sword's compensation, so we're backing out. You can deal with the rest." Li Mingxue sneered, "Water Spirit, you think you can just take a step back? Let me ask you, are you going to give them the equipment you promised?" Water Spirit shook her head. "The reason I gave them the equipment was because I wanted to take away Kikiamen's people. These 2 pieces of equipment were to prevent them from stopping me. But now I don't want to take away Kikiamen's people, so I don't need to pay for these 2 pieces of equipment." After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingxue froze for a moment. Seeing that Li Mingxue didn't answer, Water Spirit sneered and asked, "Li Mingxue, are we wrong?" This time, before Li Mingxue could answer, Li Mingxue answered first, "Water Spirit, you have to keep your word. Since you promised to give them the equipment, then you have to do it. As for whether you take away Kikiamen's people or not, what does that have to do with the equipment?" Water Spirit turned to look at Li Mingshan and asked, "Li Mingshan, what do you mean by that? If we don't take away Kikyaman's people, then we have to give you the equipment? Li Mingshan shook his head. I just said that the equipment and Kikyaman's matter are two different things. Since you promised to give us the equipment, then you have to do it. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit suddenly laughed. Li Mingshan, I understand what you mean. Are you saying that since I gave your godly sword faction 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, then I don't need to care about Silver Sword's matter? Li Mingshan was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and said angrily, We don't need to care about Kikyaman's matter, but you injured our godly sword faction's disciples, so we have to care. Water Spirit sneered and said, Can I understand it this way? Silver Sword's matter is one thing, but taking away Kikyaman's people is another thing? Li Mingshan said angrily, You Tiangongmen injured our godly sword faction's disciples, so we have to care. Water Spirit shook her head. Then since you took 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from our Tiangongmen, you can't care about us taking away Kikyaman's people, right? This time, without waiting for Li Mingshan to answer, Li Mingshui pointed at Fire Spirit and said coldly, You can take away Kikyaman's people, but I have to keep Fire Spirit. Because he injured our godly sword faction's disciples, he has to give us an explanation. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Water Spirit sighed, Your godly sword faction's way of doing things is really admirable. Even if I gave you the equipment, you still want to care about us. Why should I give you the equipment? So let's just forget about this matter. I'll back out, so the equipment naturally doesn't count. Shadowless suddenly stepped forward and said, I think we should discuss this matter. There are only 4 of us here, so I believe that as long as we discuss this, there will be a way to solve this. After hearing Shadowless's words, Wu Kadi's eyes suddenly lit up and he quickly stepped forward. That's right, let's discuss this properly. Chapter 501. Shadowless smiled and said, We can all discuss this and see if there's a better solution. After hearing Shadowless' words, Li Shan also smiled and said, That's right, there's no need to hurt our friendship. It's just a small matter. As long as we discuss it, there will be a solution. After hearing their words, Water Spirit sneered in her heart. She knew that these guys didn't have good intentions. They all wanted to succeed and get the most benefit. However, it wasn't that easy to get what they wanted. Water Spirit made up her mind this time. She had to lower the price as much as possible to minimize the Tiangongmen's loss. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit smiled and asked, Since everyone wants to discuss, then what do you think we should discuss? Shadowless smiled and said, Of course we have to discuss a solution that everyone is satisfied with. Fire Spirit suddenly sneered and said, What solution is there that everyone is satisfied with? Shadowless turned to Fire Spirit and smiled. Of course there is a solution that everyone is satisfied with. At this point, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing, Since the Heaven's Craftsman faction isn't willing to compensate Silver Knife with a piece of level 25 equipment, how about this? As long as the Heaven's Craftsman faction compensates each of us with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, this matter won't make things difficult for the Heaven's Craftsman faction and we'll all be satisfied. What do you guys think? As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Wu Kadi clapped his hands and said with a smile, Not bad, Brother Shadowless's suggestion is really good. As long as the Heaven's Craftsman Gate compensates each of our 3 families with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, this matter will be considered over. After hearing Shadowless and Wu Kadi's words, Li Shan also secretly nodded. Through what happened just now, he already knew that it was impossible for Water Spirit to compensate him with a piece of level 25 equipment. In order to not compensate with a level 25 equipment, Water Spirit had even given up on the mission. So, level 20 equipment was Water Spirit's bottom line. If it was above level 20, then it would be beyond Water Spirit's bottom line. Naturally, this matter wouldn't be completed. Therefore, they could only focus on level 20 equipment. Thinking of this, Li Shan turned to look at Water Spirit and said with a smile, Silver Blade's matter is a small matter. As long as we compensate him with 2 more level 20 equipment, our Tiangongmen won't care about this matter anymore. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's expression didn't change at all. She turned to Wu Kedi and asked, What about you guys? What does your Wu clan think? How much level 20 equipment do you need from us Tiangongmen? Wu Kedi thought for a moment, then extended 3 fingers and said with a smile, The Wu family requires the Tiangongmen to pay 3 pieces of level 20 equipment. At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, On top of the original 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, you have to give us an additional piece of level 20 equipment. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Shui Lingzi didn't know whether to agree or disagree. She only asked faintly, Wu Kedi, why do you have to give us an additional piece of level 20 equipment? Wu Kedi pointed at Wu Ketian and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, as you can see, my big brother was also injured by you guys. Don't you also have to compensate us with a piece of equipment? After hearing Wu Kedi's reason, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Shadowless and asked, Shadowless, I remember that you were also injured. Don't you also have to compensate us with a piece of level 20 equipment? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Shadowless smiled and nodded. That's right. That's also the reason why I want the Tiangongmen to compensate us with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment. After hearing the conditions of the 3 people, Shui Lingzi was about to speak when Silver Blade, who wasn't too far away from them, suddenly roared. I don't agree. You clearly promised me level 25 equipment. Why are you only giving me level 20 equipment? I don't agree. I definitely won't agree. Hearing Silver Blade's hysterical roar, Li Shan's face couldn't help but change. He turned to look at Silver Blade and angrily said, Shut up. No one is allowing you to speak right now. Silver Blade ignored Li Shan's angry roar and continued to roar, No, I want level 25 equipment. I definitely don't want level 20 equipment. Hurry up and give me level 25 equipment. Seeing that Silver Blade didn't listen to him, Li Shan's face suddenly turned green. He was about to go up and teach Silver Blade a lesson, but he was stopped by Li Mingshui. Li Shan froze for a moment before he reacted. There were so many people here. If someone wanted to speak up, it should be someone else. Thinking of this, Li Shan stopped his steps as if he didn't hear Silver Blade's words. Although Li Shan didn't stop Silver Blade didn't relax and continued to roar. Hurry up and give me level 25 equipment. I only want level 25 equipment. In this kind of situation, no one spoke. Only Silver Saber's 4 loud roars were left in the field, echoing in everyone's ears. After who knows how long, Silver Blade's voice gradually became softer and softer, as if he was tired. Then, he slowly stopped. When there was no more sound, Shadowless smiled and said, Shui Lingzi, since this is a discussion between everyone, you should say something. We've already made our conditions clear, so you should at least give us an answer. Hearing Shadowless's question, Water Spirit nodded. Shadowless, do you think the conditions you stated are reasonable? Should I give it to you? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Shadowless froze for a moment, then smiled and said, Of course it's reasonable. You guys injured Silver Blade, and still gave him level 20 equipment. Am I, Shadowless, not worth as much as Silver Blade? Water Spirit nodded. Shadowless, you're right. You are indeed worth more than Silver Blade. His conditions are also reasonable. After saying this, Water Spirit turned to Wu Kedi and asked, Wu Kedi, do you think it's reasonable to ask for 3 level 20 equipment from the Tiangongmen? Hearing Water Spirit's question, Wu Kedi immediately nodded and replied loudly, Of course it's reasonable. Is my big brother not worth as much as a small Silver Blade? Hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Shui Lingzi nodded again and turned her gaze to Li Shan. Li Shan, do you think the conditions of your godly sword sect are reasonable? Li Shan nodded without hesitation. Of course it's reasonable. 2 pieces of equipment were our initial conditions, so there's nothing to say about it. Most importantly, you injured our Godly Blade faction's disciples, so you should compensate us with 1 piece of equipment. Is this unreasonable? Hearing Li Shan's answer, Water Spirit nodded again. After pondering for a moment, she raised her hands and waved them towards the sky. At the same time, she kept shouting, "Level 20 equipment, hurry up and drop it. They're still waiting for it." Water Spirit looked towards the sky and screamed. Chapter 502. Everyone looked at Shui Lingzi, who seemed to have gone crazy, screaming at the sky. They were all startled and looked towards the sky, but even after looking for a long time, they still couldn't find any clues. After a while, Shadowless couldn't help but ask, "Water Spirit, what are you doing?" Hearing Shadowless's words, Water Spirit put down her hands and said loudly, "Didn't you guys want level 20 equipment? I'm just waiting for them to fall from the sky." Shadowless's face turned ugly. "Water Spirit, don't joke around. You're still in the mood to joke around at a time like this." Water Spirit turned to Shadowless and said seriously, "Shadowless, do you think level 20 equipment doesn't fall from the sky?" Shadowless's face turned even uglier and said angrily, "Water Spirit, don't talk nonsense. How could equipment fall from the sky?" Hearing this, Water Spirit shrugged and helplessly said, "Seeing you guys talking so casually and asking for equipment so quickly, I thought that equipment would fall from the sky." Wu Kudi said angrily, "Water Spirit, are you playing with us? How could equipment fall from the sky?" Water Spirit sighed, "So many level 20 equipment, I really can't think of any other way to get them other than falling from the sky." Wu Kudi said angrily, "Water Spirit, we're kind enough to negotiate with you, but you're playing with us. Aren't you being too insincere?" Water Spirit sighed, "It's not that we're insincere." Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi pointed at the people in front of her one by one before continuing, "It's you people who are too insincere." Wu Kudi said angrily, "We just want a few pieces of equipment, how is that insincere?" Water Spirit sighed, "Wu Kudi, do you know how difficult it is to forge a level 20 equipment?" Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "If you want to forge a piece of level 20 equipment, the first condition is to have good materials. Do you think that good materials come from nowhere? You need to search for them bit by bit and spend a lot of manpower and money to obtain them. In addition, to forge a level 20 equipment, just one good material isn't enough, you also need a lot of materials. Each material is very precious, some of them are even precious materials that some people won't even see in their lifetime. Could it be possible to forge a piece of level 20 equipment with these good materials? Let me tell you, you're wrong. Even if you're a master, there's still a chance of making a mistake when forging a level 20 equipment. Even if you gather enough precious materials, you might end up making a pile of scrap metal and waste countless precious materials. To successfully forge a level 20 equipment, the amount of manpower and resources needed is not something you can imagine. Outsiders like you will never be able to understand the hardships involved." At this point, Water Spirit sighed, "But all of you think that level 20 equipment is something that fell from the sky, something that was blown by the wind, something that could be easily obtained without spending any effort. You guys asked for so many level 20 equipment, but now you're saying I'm not sincere. Tell me, who's the one being insincere?" Water Spirit's words were sharp and eloquent. She spoke of the hardships of forging a piece of equipment and the difficulties of obtaining a piece of level 20 equipment. After everyone heard this, they all went silent. Just when the entire place was silent, Silver Saber, who had recovered his strength, suddenly shouted loudly, "Water Spirit, forging equipment is your Heaven's Craftsman faction's business. If there are any difficulties, it's also your faction's business. Today you injured me, so you must compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Hearing Silver Knife's words, everyone's heart moved and they immediately understood. Wu Kudi was the first to speak. Water Spirit, Silver Knife is right. Forging equipment is your Tiangongman's business. How much effort you put in is also your Tiangongman's business. It has nothing to do with us. Speaking up to here, Wu Kudi paused for a moment before continuing. Right now, we just want to get what we deserve. As for how you Tiangongman forge and find the materials, it has nothing to do with us. Right now, we just want the equipment that we deserve. Shadowless also sneered and said, Water Spirit, your Heaven's Craftsman Gate is a sect that forges equipment. Although it takes a lot of time and materials to forge equipment, you also get a lot of profit from it. We don't care about that, we just want what we deserve. After hearing the two's words, Li Shan turned to look at Water Spirit and sighed. Water Spirit, although I know that forging equipment is not easy, it's also not easy for our Godly Knife sect to nurture a disciple with a future. Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. First of all, it's very difficult to choose a disciple. The chosen disciple has to be talented, have a good character, and know how to respect the master. Next is the teaching of the disciple, and I'm sure Water Spirit understands how much effort is put into this. In short, the disciple that we spent so much effort to nurture was heavily injured by you. Who knows, he might never be able to practice martial arts again. Equipment is your Tiangongman's most precious thing, and our Godly Knife sect's most precious thing is our disciples. You injured one of our precious disciples. Is there anything wrong with compensating a piece of equipment? Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kudi didn't wait for Water Spirit to reply and spoke first. Li Shan is right. You Tiangongman's equipment is incomparably precious, but are our people not precious? Speaking up to here, Wu Kudi paused for a moment before continuing. My big brother has been practicing martial arts for so many years, isn't that precious? Don't you know how important my big brother is to our Wu clan? My precious elder brother was also injured by you guys. Don't tell me that we can't settle this debt with you guys? Hearing the two's words, Shadowless hurriedly took a step forward and loudly said, Water Spirit, it wasn't easy for my master to teach this disciple of mine. Dozens of years of teaching, is that not worth anything? You injured me, which is the same as hurting my master's heart. Speaking up to here, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. Water Spirit, I don't blame you for injuring me, but my master is already so old, yet he still worries about me. Do you know how much pain I feel in my heart? If my master is too upset because of this, I'm afraid that as his disciple, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Chapter 503. Water Spirit looked at the three people in front of her with a dumbfounded expression, unable to speak for a while. After a while, two words appeared in Shui Lingzi's mind. Shameless. Too shameless. For equipment, these guys didn't even care about their faces. Li Shan kept saying that the silver knife was very important. It would be strange if Shui Lingzi believed him. This time, the Godly Knife sect's silver knife came to use him as cannon fodder. Perhaps Yin Dao of the Godly Knife School had come to injure him or even kill him by the people of the Heaven's Craftsman sect so that they could profit from the situation. But such a shameless thing, such an unimportant disciple, in Li Shan's mouth, became the pillar of the Godly Knife sect, a precious disciple. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. If the silver knife was really that precious in Li Shan's eyes, he would have gone to save him already. Why would he wait for compensation and not save him? And that Wu Kudi, he was even more annoying. His big brother Wu Kutian was still standing there, but in his mouth it was like he was injured and couldn't stand up. He even had the face to ask for compensation. The most annoying person was that Shadowless. Shadowless did have some light injuries, but what did it have to do with his master? In the end, it was all a bunch of nonsense. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi's hands were trembling in anger. Because of this, she couldn't even speak. Fire Spirit shouted from the side, "You shameless bastards, what are you saying?" At this point, the Fire Spirit paused and pointed at Li Mingshan. He angrily said, "You keep saying that the silver knife is very important. Since it's so important, why don't you save him now? Can't you see that his injuries are so serious? If you don't save him now, he'll be crippled for the rest of his life." After saying this, the Fire Spirit pointed at Wu Kedi. "Wu Kedi, you old man, you're talking even more nonsense. Wu Ketian is clearly standing there perfectly fine. Why do you make it sound like he's heavily injured?" Fire Spirit pointed at Shadowless and angrily said, "You keep saying that your master will be sad for you. Why do I see that your master drank more than anyone else?" Speaking of this, Fire Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, "Shadowless, don't tell me that you're drinking to drown your sorrows." Fire Spirit suddenly roared, "You despicable people, you still want to wait for the Tiangongman's equipment? In your dreams, even if we throw the Tiangongman's equipment into the water, we won't give it to you." Li Mingshan was irritated by the Fire Spirit's words. He pointed at the Fire Spirit and said angrily, "Fire Spirit, who is talking nonsense? The reason why we didn't treat Yin Dao now is because we were afraid that the Heaven's Craftsman faction wouldn't admit it after he was healed. Is that wrong?" Speaking of this, Li Shan paused and snorted before continuing, "Or is it that you Tiangongmen don't want to pay?" Fire Spirit took a step forward and angrily said, "Li Shan, it doesn't matter if we pay or not. Shouldn't you treat your precious disciple first?" Li Shan shook his head and sneered, "I think you're just waiting for us to heal him so that you can take the chance to not pay?" Fire Spirit immediately laughed, "I think you're talking nonsense. Yin Dao isn't your precious disciple. He's just cannon fodder in your eyes." Li Shan angrily said, "It doesn't matter if he's our precious disciple or not. You just need to compensate us for the equipment." After hearing Li Shan's words, Fire Spirit immediately laughed, "How about it? I'm not wrong, right? Yin Dao isn't your precious disciple. You just want to take the opportunity to ask for the equipment." Li Shan was angered by Fire Spirit's words. He took a step forward and yelled, "Yin Dao, you don't have to care what position he has in our godly knife sect. Anyway, you injured our godly knife sect's disciple, so you have to pay." Fire Spirit sneered, "What if I don't pay?" Hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Li Shan suddenly grabbed the handle of the knife behind him and yelled, "If you don't want to pay, you have to ask my knife first." Fire Spirit laughed towards the sky. "Li Shan, do you think I'm afraid of you? I really want to see if your martial arts are as good as your words." Hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Li Shan didn't say anything this time. He slightly tightened his grip on the knife handle and stared at Fire Spirit, trying to find a flaw in him. Seeing this, Fire Spirit immediately felt a sense of danger. He didn't dare to take it anymore. Although he was laughing, he was on guard in case Li Shan suddenly attacked. Seeing that the two were about to fight, Wu Kedi suddenly yelled, "What's going on? Aren't we going to discuss something? Are we not going to discuss it?" Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan woke up a little and his anger slowly dissipated. He couldn't be the first one to step forward. There was no benefit in doing so. After understanding this point, Li Shan took a deep breath and slowly exhaled the anger in his heart. Only then did he speak softly. He then softly said, "Fire Spirit, if you want to fight, we have plenty of chances. Today, let's talk about business." Fire Spirit sneered, "Serious business? What serious business? You guys just want the equipment of our Heaven's Craftsman faction." Wu Kedi sneered, "Fire Spirit, watch your words. We don't want the equipment, you gave it to us." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused and turned to look at Water Spirit before continuing, "Water Spirit, I didn't say anything wrong, right? The first 2 pieces of level 20 equipment were given to us by you on your own initiative, right? Hearing Wukudi's question, Water Spirit calmly nodded. That's right. I did give you the equipment at the beginning, but now I regret it and don't want to anymore. Wukudi sneered. Why? Don't you want to take away Kikiaman's people? Water Spirit shook her head. I do, but the price you guys want is too high. I can't afford it, so I don't want to. Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Wukudi thought for a moment before asking, Shui Lingzi, then tell me, what kind of price can you afford to pay? Hearing this, Water Spirit looked around and said in a deep voice, I can afford 1 piece of level 20 equipment from each of your 3 families. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, if you guys agree to this condition, our agreement will take effect immediately. Hearing Shui Lingzi's conditions, everyone present was shocked. Originally, they agreed to give 2 level 20 equipment to each of the 3 families, but in the blink of an eye, it became 1 level 20 equipment for each family. Chapter 504. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wukudi suddenly shouted, Water Spirit, you didn't keep your word. You promised us 2 level 20 equipment and now you're going back on your word. You're not trustworthy at all. Water Spirit coldly laughed. What do you mean by trustworthy? Wukudi, tell me, have you ever kept your word? Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. We agreed on 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, but you used all kinds of reasons to ask for 3 pieces of equipment. What kind of behavior is this? Is this how you keep your word? Wukudi's face turned red and he couldn't say anything. Seeing this, Shadowless quickly stepped up and said, Water Spirit, this isn't Wukudi's fault. You injured his brother, so shouldn't you compensate him? Water Spirit turned to look at Shadowless and sneered. Shadowless, if we do as you say, then the Heaven's Craftsman Gate will compensate with a piece of level 20 equipment. If we injure someone, then the Heaven's Craftsman Gate might as well close down. I'm afraid the equipment we forge won't be enough to compensate. Shadowless shook his head. Water Spirit, that's not right. You injured someone for no reason and you're just going to let it go? Fire Spirit suddenly shouted. Shadowless, what do you want? Shadowless coldly laughed. I don't want anything, I just want to get fair compensation. Water Spirit shook her head. Shadowless, what you're doing isn't fair at all. What do you mean by fair compensation? Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. When the 2 sides fought, it wasn't your side that suffered a loss. Fire Spirit was also injured. Didn't you see that? Shouldn't your 2 families compensate him as well? Shadowless coldly laughed. He was the one who attacked first, why should we compensate him? Water Spirit looked at Shadowless and asked word by word, Shadowless, you're saying that only we Tiangongmen can compensate you and you won't compensate us? After hearing Shui Spirit's words, Wukudi suddenly said loudly, Shui Spirit, it was Fire Spirit who attacked first. Why should we compensate him? If it was my big brother who attacked first, we would naturally compensate you. Water Spirit coldly laughed. Don't you know why Fire Spirit attacked first? If we kept insulting you, you wouldn't have been able to hold back. I think everyone is responsible for this and no one can blame anyone. If everyone wants to blame us, then we'll just have to go our separate ways. As soon as Shui Spirit's voice fell, and before Wu Ku could reply, Li Mingshan suddenly said loudly, Shui Spirit, since you said so, did Yin Dao also insult you? Water Spirit turned to Li Mingshan and sneered. Li Mingshan, what did Yin Dao say just now? Didn't you hear him? If he wasn't so aggressive, Fire Spirit wouldn't have attacked. Li Shan sneered, really? Why didn't I hear Silver Knife insult you? Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, You didn't hear it because you're deaf. As soon as Fire Spirit said this, Li Mingshan had already reached out and grabbed the handle of the blade. He turned around and glared at Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit, I dare you to repeat what you just said. Fire Spirit saw this and laughed. Li Shan, look, aren't you the same? You can't be insulted, but do you think I, Fire Spirit, can be insulted by anyone? Li Shan gritted his teeth and slowly let go of his blade. He coldly said, I didn't hear what Silver Knife said. Water Spirit suddenly walked up and said, It's already happened. It doesn't matter if Silver Knife said those words or not. Speaking to here, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, because you don't care about this, you only care about the equipment. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan's face turned red, but he quickly returned to normal. Water Spirit, Silver Knife is our godly knife sect's disciple, of course we care about him. You don't need to care about this. I just want to know, what should we do about this? Water Spirit sneered. What should we do, Li Shan? Tell me, what should we do? This time, before Li Mingshan could speak, Li Mingshui couldn't hold back anymore and said loudly, You injured the disciples of our Heaven's Craftsman faction, so you must compensate us. Otherwise, we won't let you go. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Water Spirit nodded. Li Mingshui, you mean we should compensate Silver Knife? Li Mingshui nodded, of course. Do you think our godly knife sect is easy to bully? After listening to Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed and said, I've said it before, a small silver blade would always talk about our godly blade sect. Now it seems like he's just learning from you protectors. Li Shan heard this and angrily said, Water Spirit, don't change the topic. We're talking about compensation, why are you talking about useless things? Water Spirit nodded. Okay, since we're talking about compensation, then tell me, how should I compensate you? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui paused for a moment, then loudly said, Still according to the previous conditions, compensate us with a level 20 equipment. At this moment, Silver Knife, who hadn't spoken for a long time, once again let out a heart-wrenching cry after hearing this. No, I won't agree. We already agreed on level 25 equipment, why are you only giving us level 20 equipment? I won't agree. In the beginning, when Yin Dao shouted, everyone just listened. But as he shouted too many times, they didn't even bother to listen anymore. They just treated his words as if they were nothing more than passing wind, passing by their ears. Hearing this voice, Water Spirit sneered, This madman, is he one of the elites of your godly knife sect? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui's face turned red, but he forced himself to calm down and said, Water Spirit, you don't have to care about this, you just have to compensate us. Water Spirit shook her head, I have to care. If he's a madman and not an elite of your godly knife sect, then why should I compensate you with a level 20 equipment? Do you think that we'll just casually kill a madman and compensate you with a level 20 equipment? I think that no matter how strong we Tiangongmen are, we wouldn't do such a thing. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui gritted his teeth and nodded. That's right, Silver Knife is an elite of our godly knife sect. Water Spirit, what else do you have to say? Water Spirit nodded. This is your godly knife sect's matter, so I naturally have nothing to say. However, I do have some questions. Chapter 505. Li Mingshui said angrily, I already said that Yin Dao is an elite disciple of our godly sword sect. What other questions do you have? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshui, I just want to ask, are all the elite disciples of your godly sword sect like this? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshui clenched his teeth and turned to look at Yin Dao, then said in a cold voice, Shui Lingzi, what does this have to do with you? Shui Lingzi shook her head. It doesn't matter, I'm just a little worried. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. If all the elite disciples of your godly sword sect are lunatics like this, then your godly sword sect will be in danger in the future. As soon as Shui Lingzi finished speaking, she immediately heard a crisp sound and a white light flashed in front of her eyes. Shui Lingzi saw that the situation was not good, so she hurriedly stomped on the ground and rushed out. The white light carried a cold chill and landed where Shui Lingzi was standing. After a muffled sound, a large hole was formed in the ground. Shui Lingzi, who had already dodged the attack, saw the danger of this attack and sucked in a breath of cold air. Without waiting for Water Spirit to calm down, Fire Spirit roared and punched out with both of his fists towards Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui sneered and did not take back the sword in his hand. Instead, he shook it slightly in front of him and turned it into a sword light that swept towards Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit's martial arts were not weak. Seeing that Li Mingshui had changed his move, he roared again and jumped into the air and continued to rush towards Li Mingshui. Although Li Mingshui's sword light was sharp, it was already outside the circle and Fire Spirit was already in front of him. Helplessly, he could only wave his left fist and meet Fire Spirit's attack. But the two fists clashed together, and Li Mingshui felt a huge force pass through him. His left fist couldn't completely block the Fire Spirit's attack. Helplessly, Li Mingshui could only use the momentum to jump back and try to resolve this attack. Fire Spirit was overjoyed when he saw this. As soon as he landed on the ground, he jumped into the air again and wanted to chase after Li Mingshui. However, at this moment, a figure rushed over from the side like a bolt of lightning and blocked the Fire Spirit's attack. Fire Spirit wanted to stabilize his body and resolve the enemy's attack, but the speed of the person was too fast. Just as he stabilized his body, he felt a punch on his side and his whole body was sent flying. When Li Mingshui landed on the ground, he felt a surge of emotions. He felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. A wave of heat surged up his throat, but he endured it and suppressed this feeling. On the other side, Fire Spirit was not having a good time either. When he was in midair, he had already spat out a mouthful of blood. Water Spirit saw that something was wrong and quickly went up to support Fire Spirit. She asked with concern, "Fire Spirit, how are you?" Fire Spirit coughed and wiped his mouth before replying. He replied, "I'm fine." After Li Shan repelled the Fire Spirit, he hurried over to Li Mingshui. "Are you?" "I'm fine. Fire Spirit won't be able to hurt me." In that split second, Fire Spirit and Li Mingshui were both injured. Seeing that Fire Spirit was fine, Fire Spirit turned to Li Mingshui and angrily said, "Li Mingshui, you dare to sneak attack us? Do you have any morals?" Li Mingshui also angrily said, "You injured our godly knife sex people. Do you still have any morals?" Fire Spirit sneered and slowly walked towards Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui naturally did not show any weakness. He tightly grasped the handle of his knife. As long as Fire Spirit dared to attack, he would immediately cut her under his knife. Shui Lingzi arrived 3 steps away from Li Mingshan and stopped. 3 steps was the best distance for Fire Spirit to attack. It was also the distance from which she could display the most power. Fire Spirit looked at Li Mingshui and coldly said, "Your godly knife sect attacked us secretly. Do I need an explanation?" Li Mingshui shook his head. "Fire Spirit, their people are also injured. Who can give me an explanation?" Fire Spirit turned to look at Li Mingshui. He attacked first. If I didn't dodge quickly, he would have succeeded. Li Mingshui sneered. Why did he attack? This time, before Fire Spirit could answer, Li Mingshui spoke first. "Fire Spirit, if you didn't insult our godly knife sect, I wouldn't have attacked." Fire Spirit sneered. "If that's the case, then it's my fault. I insulted your godly knife sect first, and then you attacked me. Is that my fault?" Li Mingshui sneered. "No matter what, since you dared to say those words, then you have to bear the consequences." Hearing Li Mingshui's answer, Fire Spirit took a deep breath. She turned to Yin Dao and suddenly laughed. "If that's the case, then it's not wrong for us to injure Yin Dao?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingxue was stunned for a moment. Then, he angrily said, "That's not the same thing. Yin Dao's matter is different from mine." Fire Spirit suddenly sighed. "I think, the matter of injuring people, why don't we just forget about it? We're all people of the Jianghu. It's normal for us to get injured. Why bother?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingxue's eyes suddenly narrowed. He turned to look at Fire Spirit and asked word by word. "Fire Spirit, what do you mean by that?" Fire Spirit sighed. "We're all people of the South region. Why do we have to hurt each other over such a small matter? I think, everything that happened tonight, why don't we just forget about it? Let's just treat it as if it never happened. We can start afresh. If there's anything, say it, and if there's any conditions, we can discuss it. Isn't that good?" Fire Spirit's words had just left her mouth when Yin Dao suddenly roared, "Fire Spirit, you're dreaming. You want to use this opportunity to not compensate me? In your dreams, I won't let you go. If you don't compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment, I'll let everyone in the South region know that you, Fire Spirit, are a person who doesn't keep your words." Hearing Fire Spirit's words, even the usually calm Fire Spirit's face changed color. If Yin Dao really did this, he would be spreading bad news about Xuelingzi. This wouldn't do any good to Xuelingzi. Thinking of this, Fire Spirit's eyes flashed with killing intent. Fire Spirit rarely had this kind of mentality. Today, he was really angry. A godly sword sect's disciple dared to challenge a Tiangongman's consecrator. He really didn't know when to back down. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingxue's face also changed. Fire Spirit didn't have a high status in the godly sword sect. Li Mingxue never looked up to him. But he never thought that this Fire Spirit would have so many tricks up his sleeves. Chapter 506. Li Shan suddenly sighed and turned to look at Xuelingzi. "Xuelingzi, what do you want to do?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Xuelingzi immediately woke up. She bitterly smiled and shook her head. "It's all my fault. If I didn't show him kindness at the beginning, he wouldn't have become so daring." At this moment, Xuelingzi was really regretting her actions. At first, when she saw that Yin Dao was young and ambitious and had the same style as her, she was naturally more tolerant and kind to him. But she never thought that because of her kind actions, Yin Dao would take an inch and want a mile. He actually thought that she was easy to bully and wanted something that was impossible. Yin Dao was now crazy to the point that he couldn't be any crazier. In his mind, there was only that level 25 equipment. He always believed that as long as he got that level 25 equipment, his life would immediately change. He would also set foot on the peak of his life and become a person above all others. But in the eyes of a sober person, all of this was just a dream. Xuelingzi took a deep breath and expelled this regret from her mind. Then she slowly said, "Li Shan, I still say the same thing. I think we should forget about today's matter. We injured Yin Dao and you also injured Fire Spirit. How about we just forget about this matter?" Hearing Xuelingzi's words, Li Shan hesitated. Yin Dao was a madman. He already knew that for this madman, continuing to make things difficult for Xuelingzi was unwise. Could it be that they really had to give up? Don't forget that there was still a level 20 equipment. If they could get that level 20 equipment, Li Shan would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. Li Shan was also hesitating about this point. He was very clear that what Xuelingzi said was correct. They shouldn't pursue this matter any further. If they did as Water Spirit said and obtained 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from the Heaven's Craftsman Gate, the 2 brothers would be rewarded when they returned. However, they had lost a piece of level 20 equipment. Was it worth it? Just as Li Mingshan was hesitating, Li Mingxue suddenly yelled out, "No, Yin Dao's injuries and Fire Spirit's injuries are even, but what about my injuries? You injured me, are you going to let it go like this?" Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled, cupped her fists towards Li Mingshui, and said apologetically, "Today's matter, all of us are at fault. If you don't mind, us brothers will come to apologize to you another day." At this moment, Yin Dao suddenly staggered to his feet and walked towards Shui Lingzi shakily. "Water Spirit, I already said that this matter won't end here. As long as you don't compensate me with level 25 equipment, I won't let you off." Looking at the silver knife that was about to fall to the ground at any moment, Shui Lingzi felt her hands trembling slightly, and her heart was thumping wildly, and a voice kept ringing in her mind. "Beat him up, beat this annoying guy into a pulp." Seeing the murderous intent in Shui Lingzi's eyes getting stronger and stronger, Li Mingshan suddenly stepped in front of her. "Shui Lingzi, what do you want?" "No matter what, Yin Dao is a disciple of our godly knife sect. I hope you don't forget this." Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth. "Li Mingshan, must you protect him?" Li Mingshan said seriously, "If Yin Dao made a mistake, then the godly knife sect's rules will punish him. No outsider can interfere." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and slowly said, "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you to take him away, so I don't have to worry about him." At this time, Yin Dao had already arrived behind Li Mingshui, and after hearing Shui Lingzi's words, he suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Water Spirit, stop dreaming. If you want our protector to take me away, then you can save that level 25 equipment. I'm not telling you, if I don't get your compensation today, then no one can take me away." Before Yin Dao could finish his words, Li Mingshan angrily slapped him in the face, causing him to tumble and fall to the ground again. Yin Dao kept screaming on the ground. He wanted to get up again, but his injuries were too serious. After trying a few times, he finally gave up. Yin Dao fell to the ground and suddenly pointed at Li Mingshan. "Sir Protector, why did you hit me?" Li Mingshan turned around and looked at Yin Dao coldly saying, "You disobeyed your superiors, so you don't deserve to be hit?" Hearing this, Yin Dao suddenly shouted, I understand, haha, you're scared of Shui Lingzi, so you're taking it out on me." After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan raised his hand again, but after a moment, he weakly put it down. Yin Dao's injuries were too severe. If he were to slap him again, Yin Dao might just die. Yin Dao was injured by Fire Spirit, so if he died, then it would be Fire Spirit who killed him. Li Mingshan definitely wouldn't take the blame for him. Seeing Li Mingshan raise his hand, Yin Dao wasn't afraid at all. He sneered and said, "I'm right, you're scared of them, so you want to agree to their conditions, right?" Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "Sir Protector, listen to me, they won't dare to do anything to us. As long as you listen to me, then Shui Lingzi will compensate me with level 25 equipment. At that time, as long as I become a disciple of the godly knife sect's leader, I won't forget you." Enough! Yin Dao's words weren't finished, but he was interrupted by the furious Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and calmed his anger, then slowly said, "Yin Dao, your injuries are too serious, don't talk anymore. What I want to do, it's none of your business." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao once again sneered. "Sir Protector, you don't want me to do anything, is it because you want to surrender? You're scared of Shui Lingzi, are you scared that you can't beat her?" Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan's anger, which had calmed down a little, once again erupted like a volcano. He fiercely took a step forward and waved his hand again, hitting Yin Dao's face. "Enough, didn't you hear me tell you to shut up?" Yin Dao was hit and rolled twice on the ground. He screamed as he tried to sit up again. Yin Dao took a few deep breaths, then coughed violently for a while. Finally, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his expression calmed down a bit. Seeing Yin Dao in such a miserable state, Li Mingshan couldn't bear it. He took a deep breath and drove out the anger in his heart, then slowly said, "Yin Dao, there are some things you shouldn't worry about. You should recover first and don't move again. After this matter is settled, I will treat your injuries. Yin Dao wiped the stain on his mouth and looked up at Li Mingshan. Chapter 507. Yin Dao looked up at Li Mingshan and said while gasping for breath, Lord Protector, you must make Shui Lingzi compensate me for the level 25 equipment, otherwise you can't let him go. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao coughed again. After calming down a bit, he continued, Lord Protector, I'll leave it to you. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan's hand moved again. The thought of slapping Yin Dao's mouth once again emerged from the bottom of his heart. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and didn't answer Yin Dao's words. He slowly stood up. He didn't dare to speak. He was afraid that the anger in his heart would be ignited. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold himself back and directly beat Yin Dao into a pulp. Out of sight, out of mind. Li Mingshan silently muttered this sentence in his heart before turning around and walking away. Because everyone was standing close to each other, the conversation between Li Mingshan and Yin Dao was naturally heard clearly. After Li Mingshan left, everyone's eyes turned to Shui Lingzi. At this moment, Shui Lingzi didn't know what to say. She only knew that Yin Dao was crazy, completely crazy. Li Mingshui suddenly came to Shui Lingzi's side and whispered, Shui Lingzi, what are you going to do about Yin Dao? Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled and shook her head, I don't know. After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Li Mingshui, what do you think I should do? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshui also bitterly smiled. I don't know either. The scene fell into silence. No one spoke anymore as they were all thinking about how to solve this problem. In fact, everyone understood that even if Shui Lingzi said that she would give up on taking away Kikiaman's people, it was because of some reason. In other words, Shui Lingzi's ultimate goal was definitely to take away Kikiaman's people. Therefore, there was still room for discussion in this negotiation. It wasn't that they had completely stopped talking. How to discuss this was a big problem. Before, they thought that as long as they discussed it, this matter would be settled. But after the appearance of Yin Dao, this matter became complicated. This was because Yin Dao's price was too high. A level 25 equipment. When the Wu family first came, the price was one level 24 equipment. After some bargaining, the price was reduced to 2 level 20 equipment. Why didn't the Wu family insist on the level 24 equipment? It was precisely because they knew how precious level 24 equipment was that the Heaven's Craftsman faction couldn't possibly give them such precious equipment that they gave up on this unrealistic idea. Instead, they changed their minds to an acceptable agreement of 2 level 20 equipment. Even the Wu family believed that it was impossible for them to obtain level 24 equipment. Yet, Silver Knife insisted that he wanted level 25 equipment. This was truly difficult to deal with. If it was a normal person, everyone could persuade Yin Dao to give up this ridiculous idea. But now was not the time. Yin Dao was a madman, a complete madman. Everyone understood that for the sake of that level 25 equipment, Silver Knife would do anything. If it wasn't for today's occasion, but any other place, if Water Spirit and Yin Dao met, and Yin Dao dared to put forward such a condition, everyone was sure that Water Spirit would beat him into a pulp and throw him into the river. However, he couldn't do it now. There were so many people here. If he beat Yin Dao, this matter would definitely spread out. It wouldn't be good for anyone's reputation. So, Yin Dao couldn't be beaten or scolded. He could only listen to him bargain. After a while, Shadowless suddenly looked up at Water Spirit and said with a smile, Water Spirit, let's not bother with him. Let's talk about our conditions first. Once we're done, we won't interfere with what you do. Shadowless paused and glanced at Silver Blade before continuing, he's injured. Even if he wants to, can he do anything about it? Water Spirit, what do you think? Hearing Shadowless' suggestion, Water Spirit nodded. Okay, as long as everyone agrees, I won't say anything. Seeing that Water Spirit agreed, Shadowless turned to Wu Kadi and asked with a smile, Wu Kadi, you heard what we just said. What do you mean? Wu Kadi nodded. I don't have any objections. As long as we agree, why bother with that brat? Shadowless quickly walked to Li Shan and asked with a smile, Li Shan, what do you think? Li Shan nodded faintly. Okay, as long as the conditions are okay, I won't say anything. Seeing that everyone agreed, Shadowless clapped his hands in satisfaction and said loudly, Since everyone agrees, then let's talk about it. As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Dao's roar sounded from the side. No, as long as I don't agree, this matter won't end here. I want my level 25 equipment. Water Spirit, you have to give it to me. Shadowless looked at Dao with disgust and then continued, Now let's talk about the conditions. Who will start first? As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Dao began to struggle. He coughed violently and tried to stand up. At the same time, he screamed, No, I don't agree, cough cough. Hearing this, Shadowless took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Then he turned to the crowd and said, Who will start first? Hearing this, everyone looked at the person next to them, wanting to let someone else speak first. Seeing that no one wanted to speak, Shadowless smiled and said, Since no one wants to speak, then I'll do it. Same old rules, we'll do it like everyone said at the beginning. Each family will give 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. After saying this, Shadowless looked at everyone's expression. Seeing that no one had any objections, he turned to Shui Spirit and said with a smile, Shui Spirit, what do you think? Shui Spirit shook her head, Not good. You 3 families will each get 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. This means that we need to give 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. That's too much, we Tiangongmen can't afford it. Hearing Shui Spirit's answer, Wu Kudi, who had been silent, suddenly said, Shui Spirit, what we just said, why did you change your mind? Shui Spirit shook her head. It's not that I changed, it's just that we Tiangongmen really can't take out that many level 20 equipment. Speaking up to here, Shui Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, If you want to reach an agreement as soon as possible, I hope that you can lower your demands. That way we can continue to discuss. As soon as Shui Spirit finished speaking, Li Shan on the side was furious. Shui Spirit, you're a person who doesn't keep your words. We just agreed on something and you're going back on your words in the blink of an eye. Do you look down on us and think that we're easy to bully? Shui Spirit shook her head. It's not that I think you're easy to bully, it's that you think I'm easy to bully. Chapter 508. Shui Lingzi sneered. I tried to hold it in so as not to hurt everyone's relationship, but what about you guys? Do I have to say it out loud? Li Mingshan said angrily. You were the one who said the conditions, we didn't ask you to say it. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit nodded. Since I said it, then I'll say it again. Your conditions are too high, so you need to lower them a bit before we can negotiate. Shui Lingzi paused for a bit before continuing. If you don't lower your conditions, then I have nothing to say. At worst, I'll go back and say that I can't complete this mission. It's not like I'll suffer any harm. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless suddenly sneered and said, Shui Lingzi, your words are really nice to hear. If you can't complete this mission, will it really harm you? Shui Lingzi turned to look at Shadowless and sneered. Shadowless, then tell me, what harm will it do to me if I can't complete this mission? Shadowless snorted and turned to Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, don't treat us like idiots. We know about the competition between the Tiangongmen and Kikiamen. Why do you want to take away Kikiamen's people? Do you think we don't know? Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing. Shui Lingzi, Kikiamen is very important to you Tiangongmen. Even if you don't say it, do you think we don't know? I can guarantee that if you can't bring back Kikiamen's people, you will be heavily punished. Shui Lingzi's expression changed but quickly returned to normal. Shadowless, The Tiangongmen and Kikyamen did have a competition, but it was a draw. Our sect leader went missing at this time, so we want to bring back Kikyamen's people. Shadowless sneered and shook his head. Shuilingzi, let's not beat around the bush. As long as you satisfy us, we'll satisfy you too. Shadowless snorted again. Shuilingzi, if you don't satisfy us, then we don't need to satisfy you either. Shuilingzi raged. You're hitting us when we're down. Did we Tiangongmen offend you? Shadowless shook his head. No, you Tiangongmen didn't offend us, but we didn't offend you Tiangongmen either. We spent a lot of money to get your equipment, so we don't owe each other anything. Shuilingzi raged. Since you know this, why are you being so aggressive? Can't you give us Tiangongmen some face? Shadowless sneered. Since we bought our equipment with money, why should we give you face? Hearing Shadowless's words, Shuilingzi was stunned. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Every piece of Tiangongmen's equipment was sold to the outside world. Using these equipment to exchange for a large amount of wealth was the only way to support the operations of the Tiangongmen. In other words, no matter who got the equipment from the Tiangongmen, they spent money or used materials to exchange for it. There really wasn't a question of giving face. Seeing that Shuilingzi didn't answer, Shadowless suddenly sighed. Let's not talk about those things anymore, it's meaningless. Let's talk about our situation first. At this point, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. I'll say the same thing again. 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. As long as you agree to it, I'll withdraw immediately and no longer interfere with the matters of the Heavens Craftsman faction. This time, Shadowless was careful and didn't say 2 pieces of equipment for everyone, but 2 pieces of equipment for himself. As long as Shuilingzi agreed to give him 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, Shadowless wouldn't care about anyone else. After hearing Shadowless's words, Shuilingzi nodded and turned to Wu-Kadi. Wu-Kadi, what about you? What's your condition? Wu-Kadi heard this and said loudly, I don't want much of your equipment, as long as you give me the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment that we agreed on before, I'll be satisfied. Hearing Wu-Kadi's answer, Shuilingzi nodded again and looked at Li Shan. Li Shan, what about you? What's your condition? Li Shan sneered. My condition is the same as theirs, 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. After hearing the conditions of the 3 people, Shuilingzi suddenly sighed. Your conditions are the same as before, level 20 equipment. But as I said before, 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, we Tiangongmen can't afford it. Speaking up to here, Shuilingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Since none of you are willing to take the initiative to lower the price and reach this agreement, then I'll state my condition. 1 piece of level 20 equipment for everyone. If you agree, then our agreement will take effect immediately. Just as Shuilingzi finished speaking, Wu-Kadi shouted, Shuilingzi, you're too cunning, but I definitely won't fall for your trick. I can tell you clearly that if you want to get rid of my Wu clan with 1 piece of level 20 equipment, you're dreaming. Hearing Wu-Kadi's roar, Shuilingzi didn't get angry and continued to look at Li Shan. Li Shan, are you still not satisfied with 1 piece of level 20 equipment? Li Shan sneered. Why should I be satisfied? Originally there were 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, but you only gave me 1. If it was you, would you be satisfied? Shuilingzi nodded and turned to Shadowless. Shadowless, 1 piece of level 20 equipment, do you agree? Shadowless shook his head. If it's only 1 piece of level 20 equipment, then we really don't need to reach an agreement with you. After hearing the 3's answer, Shuilingzi pondered for a moment before slowly saying, 1 piece of level 20 equipment and 2 pieces of level 10 equipment, that's my bottom line. Speaking up to here, Shuilingzi paused for a moment before continuing, I can tell you clearly now that the level 10 equipment that I'm giving you is from me. Because if you pass the Tiangongmen, I'm afraid that you won't be able to pass this condition. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Wu Kudi was furious. He took a step forward and said loudly, "I don't agree. You want to send my Wu clan away with 2 pieces of level 10 equipment? You should keep it for yourself." Seeing Wu Kudi so angry, Shui Lingzi sighed and turned to look at Shadowless. "Shadowless, Wu Kudi is too stubborn, you can't be like him." Shadowless sneered, "Shui Lingzi, you're right. You're just like Wu Kudi." Speaking up to hear, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing, 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, not 1 less. Shui Lingzi shook her head and turned to look at Li Shan, but who knew that before she could say anything, Li Shan would speak first. "Shui Lingzi, you don't need to ask me, I don't agree." Chapter 509. Li Shan sneered and said, "Water Spirit, 1 level 20 equipment and 2 level 10 equipment, I won't agree to that." Hearing Li Shan's answer, Water Spirit sighed, "Why are you all so stubborn? Do you think that the Tiangongmen's equipment can be bought by the wind and they don't need to be made?" Speaking up to hear, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "How about this, 1 level 20 equipment and 2 level 15 equipment, this is my bottom line. If this matter still doesn't work, then I'll give up." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kudi didn't speak. He was thinking in his heart whether or not he should agree to this condition. This time, no matter how much equipment the Tiangongmen gave them, they wouldn't need to spend a single copper coin. 1 level 20 equipment and 2 level 15 equipment, although it was a far cry from the previous 2 level 20 equipment, but the conditions were still quite good. What's more, if he didn't agree and Water Spirit withdrew, then he wouldn't be able to get anything. Thinking of this, Wu Kudi raised his head and looked around, wanting to see what other people were thinking. Wu Kudi just raised his head when he heard Li Shan's voice. "Water Spirit, take back your equipment, I won't agree to this condition." Water Spirit heard this and sighed, "Such a good condition, why won't you agree?" Li Shan sneered. 1 level 20 equipment and 2 level 15 equipment. Although it's not bad, compared to 2 level 20 equipment, it's still far from enough. That's why I won't agree to your conditions. Water Spirit looked at Li Shan and asked word by word, "Even if I withdraw, you still won't agree?" Li Shan froze for a moment, then sneered, "Water Spirit, you don't need to lie to me, no matter what condition I give you, you won't withdraw." Water Spirit sneered, "Li Shan, are you so sure that I won't withdraw no matter what condition you give me?" Li Shan nodded decisively. "No, you won't quit." Speaking up to hear, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "If you withdraw, I'm afraid you won't be able to reply when you go back." Water Spirit nodded, "Indeed, if I can't complete this task, then it won't be good for me." Speaking up to hear, Shui Lingzi's tone paused, then he sighed and continued, "It is because of this reason that I want to reach an agreement with you." Speaking up to hear, Water Spirit's voice suddenly raised, "But you, although I wanted to reach an agreement with you, you used this as an excuse to keep increasing the price. Now I can't afford it, I'll withdraw. Now are you satisfied?" Li Mingshan sneered. "Water Spirit, do you think we're 3-year-old children? The Great Heavens Craftsman Gate doesn't even have 6 pieces of level 20 equipment? Do you think we'll believe you?" Hearing this, Water Spirit shook her head. "I already said that level 20 equipment isn't easy to create. Why would the Tiangongmen spend so much manpower and resources to create such equipment?" At this point, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "Do you know how many Tiangongmen there are? Do you know how many Tiangongmen are waiting for the equipment to be sold so that they can buy materials? Do you know how many Tiangongmen are waiting for the equipment to be sold so that they can buy materials? If I give you these 6 pieces of level 20 equipment, the Tiangongmen will definitely suffer great losses. What should I do then?" After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was stunned. As a big sect, although on the surface it looked incomparably glorious, but the expenses were also quite huge. Not to mention the Tiangongmen, even the godly knife faction was in the same situation. Without a huge source of funds, how could the godly knife faction operate? Thinking of this, Li Mingshan was speechless for a moment. Shadowless sneered and said, "Water Spirit, who are you trying to fool? Level 20 equipment may be precious, but which one of you doesn't have one? If you take them out, you can give them to us. How can you say that the Heavens Craftsman faction has suffered a great loss?" Water Spirit shook her head. "Not everyone has level 20 equipment. Even the disciples of the Tiangongmen are the same. Many people have never seen level 20 equipment in their entire life. That's why it's impossible." At this moment, Silver Knife, who was struggling to get up, suddenly shouted, "Water Spirit, don't make it sound so pitiful. If you don't give me a piece of level 25 equipment today, I won't let you go." Hearing this voice, everyone remembered that Silver Knife was also there. Silver Knife suddenly took a few deep breaths and staggered towards Water Spirit. "Water Spirit, I don't care about your Tiangongmen's business. How you take out the equipment is your business. But if you want to take away Kikiaman's people, you have to have my permission first." "Cough, cough," Silver Knife said anxiously, causing another round of violent coughing. After coughing, he felt a bit better, but then he felt a wave of nausea. He couldn't hold it in anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. After spitting out the mouthful of blood, Silver Knife felt a lot better and continued to speak. "Water Spirit, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and find a way to get the equipment." Hearing this, everyone's heart was moved. The Tiangongmen's problems were their own business. What did it have to do with others? If they wanted to take away Kikiaman's people today, then they would have to pay the price. After understanding this point, Li Mingshan suddenly laughed. After laughing, he turned his head to look at Water Spirit and said, "Water Spirit, Yin Dao is right. The matter of equipment is your Heavens Craftsman faction's business. It has nothing to do with us. You gave us the equipment because you want to take away Kikiaman's people. We didn't ask you for it. You can also choose not to take away Kikiaman's people. That way, you don't have to give us the equipment." Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "Water Spirit, don't you think so?" After hearing Li Shan's words, Water Spirit sighed again. She understood that this matter was troublesome. She was a bit moved by Li Shan's words, but she didn't expect Silver Knife to remind her. Li Shan quickly reacted. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit fiercely glared at Silver Knife and said softly, "I admit that I gave you the equipment because I wanted to take away Kikiaman's people, but your asking price is too high. Even if I wanted to give you the equipment, I don't have that much to give you." Li Shan shook his head. "I don't care about this matter. I just want to take the reward for not taking care of this matter." Before Water Spirit could answer, Shadowless smiled and said, "That's right, we just want to take the reward we deserve." Chapter 510. Water Spirit said angrily, "You guys are being rude. If I could give it to you, why wouldn't I? You guys want so much level 20 equipment, how am I supposed to give it to you?" Li Shan shook his head and sneered, "That's your Tiangongmen's business, I don't care." Water Spirit sighed, "I give up. I can't take out so much level 20 equipment, so I can only back out." Shadowless suddenly said, "Water Spirit, are you really going to give up?" Water Spirit nodded and said helplessly, "I really can't take out so much equipment, so I can only give up." Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Shadowless nodded and said coldly, "Water Spirit, you have to keep your word." Hearing Shadowless say this, Water Spirit felt strange but still nodded, "I will." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "I can't take out so much. As for level 20 equipment, I can only give up." Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Shadowless suddenly laughed. After laughing, he turned to look at Water Spirit and said with a smile, Water Spirit, if you give up, then fine, I'll take away Kikyaman's people. No. As soon as Shadowless' words fell, a wave of opposition came from all around. Wu Kudi stepped forward and said angrily, "No, I won't agree." Shadowless turned to Wu Kudi and said slowly, "Why, Wu Kudi, what do you mean?" Wu Kudi sneered, "If Water Spirit wants to take away Kikyaman's people, you have to pay the price of 6 level 20 equipment." Speaking up to here, Wu Kudi paused for a moment before continuing, "Shadowless, what price do you want to pay?" Shadowless shook his head, "No price, I just want to take away Kikyaman's people." Hearing Shadowless's answer, Wu Kudi suddenly sneered. He turned his head to look at Li Shan and asked indifferently, "Li Shan, Shadowless wants to take away the 7 skill sex people without paying any price. I wonder if your godly knife sect is willing to accept this?" Hearing Wu Kudi's question, Li Shan shook his head expressionlessly. "No matter who wants to take away Kikyaman's people, they have to pay the price. If you don't want to take away Kikyaman's people, then you have to ask if my knife agrees or not." Hearing Li Mingshan's answer, Wu Kudi turned to Shadowless and sneered, "Shadowless, did you hear that? Did you ask Li Mingshan about that saber? Did his saber agree?" Shadowless shook his head. "I don't need to ask. If he doesn't agree, I'll give up too." Wu Kudi paused for a second and then sneered, "If that's the case, then I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. You want to take away Kikyaman's people without paying any price? Not only Li Mingshan's Dao won't agree, but I won't agree either." Hearing this, Shadowless sighed. "It seems that the only people who can take away Qiqiao sect are from the Heaven's Craftsman faction." Shui Lingzi shook her head. "I gave up. The price to take Kikyaman is too high. We Tiangongmen can't afford it, so we gave up too." After Shui Lingzi's words, the scene fell into silence. Everyone was looking at each other, hoping that the other would take a step back. After a while, Li Shan sighed. "It seems like none of us can take away Kikyaman's people today." Shadowless turned to Li Shan and sneered. "Li Shan, do you want to take away Kikyaman's people as well?" Li Shan nodded. "I do, but I can't afford such a high price, so I can't take away Kikyaman's people either." Shadowless sighed. He looked at the sky and said softly, "It's almost dawn." Shadowless paused for a second before continuing. "After dawn, Kikyaman's people will leave this place." Everyone heard Shadowless's words, but no one answered him. They were all silently thinking about how to solve this problem. The scene fell into silence once again. This time, no one spoke again. Time passed by slowly, and the sky finally brightened. To be more precise, it was dawn. The fog of the night was just about to disperse, and there was a sliver of light on the horizon. At this time, Sun Qiao was overjoyed when no one spoke. Seeing that the sun was about to rise, she quickly ordered people to prepare everything and leave. Fire Spirit, who was standing not far from Kikyaman, became impatient when he saw that Sun Qiao and the others were about to leave. He turned to Shui Lingzi and asked in a low voice, "Are we going to let Kikyaman's people leave just like that?" Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled and shook her head. "If we don't let them go, what else can we do?" Fire Spirit hurriedly said, "But if we let them go, how are we going to explain this?" Shui Lingzi sighed. "Even if we want to stop them, do you have 6 level 20 equipment?" Hearing this, Fire Spirit looked at everyone angrily. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. If it wasn't for these despicable people, this mission would have been completed long ago. The Kikyaman's horses were already on the carriage, and the people were packed. They were just waiting for Sun Qiao's order to leave. Even now, no one spoke. They were all waiting for someone to stop Sun Qiao. Of these people, the happiest was of course Sun Qiao. The entire night was spent in discussions with everyone. Although everyone was resting here, no one rested well. They spent the night in a state of tension. Sun Qiao was already regretting it. She should have ordered people to hurry and not waste time here. Zhang Meng also stood up and prepared to leave. Although he knew that these people in front of him would definitely not let them go easily, since no one said anything, it was best to leave. Just as Sun Xiao was about to give the order, Fire Spirit couldn't hold it in anymore. He suddenly jumped to the front of Sun Xiao's group and shouted, "Don't leave. Our matter hasn't been resolved yet. You can't leave now." Sun Xiao saw this and quickly walked to the front of the group. She angrily said to Fire Spirit, "Fire Spirit, I already told you that Han Qingyun's matter has nothing to do with us. I hope you won't stop us." Fire Spirit anxiously stopped the group, but he didn't know what to say. He could only turn to Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi saw this and secretly sighed. He originally didn't want to speak up. Even if Kikiaman's people left, he didn't want to speak up. Because if he spoke up, the others would immediately surround him and ask for benefit. However, Fire Spirit had already stopped Kikiaman's group. Even if he didn't want to speak, he had to. Shui Lingzi slowly walked to the front of the group and looked at Sun Xiao. He smiled and said, "Our sect Master Han's matter and the competition's matter haven't been resolved." Chapter 511. Shui Lingzi continued, "Sect Leader Sun, I want you to leave after we've finished our business." Sun Xiao quickly shook her head. "I've already made it clear to you. Why are you still bothering me?" Shui Lingzi sneered. "As long as Sect Leader Han hasn't been found, our business isn't over. As long as there's no winner, our competition has to continue. How can this be considered over?" At this time, Shadowless also slowly walked over. "Shui Lingzi is right, your business isn't over yet. You should finish your business here before you leave." After hearing the two's words, Sun Xiao took a deep breath and slowly said, "Shui Lingzi, what do you want?" Shui Lingzi shook her head. "I don't want anything. I just want Sect Leader Sun and your people to come back with me to the Tiangongmen to help with the investigation of Sect Leader Han and also to finish our competition. At that time, if Sect Leader Sun wants to leave, I won't stop you." Sun Xiao looked at Shui Lingzi and asked word by word, "What if I don't agree?" Hearing Sun Xiao's words, Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, "Sun Xiao, this isn't something you can do. If you don't come back with us, we'll take you back even if we have to use force." Sun Xiao stared at Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, is this what you want?" Shui Lingzi sighed. "Our mission this time is to take you back. If you don't agree, we'll have to use force to complete our mission." Sun Xiao nodded. "Good, the Tiangongmen are really strong. Using force to deal with a small sect, they're really strong." Hearing Sun Xiao's words, Shui Lingzi's face turned red, but she still said, "We have a mission, please forgive us, Sect Leader Sun." Sun Xiao suddenly turned to Shadowless and sneered. "Shadowless, Shui Lingzi wants to take away Kikiaman's people, are you going to agree?" Shadowless laughed and nodded. "Why wouldn't we agree? As long as the Tiangongmen give us enough benefits, why wouldn't we agree?" Hearing Shadowless's words, Sun Xiao sneered. "Water Spirit, I think you should solve your own problem before taking us away." Hearing this, Shui Lingzi's expression changed, and the feeling of depression that had disappeared surged into her heart once again. He knew what Shadowless was trying to say. It was still about the 2 level 20 equipment. If he gave Shadowless the 2 level 20 equipment, he would definitely let him take away Kikiaman's men. However, if he didn't give him the 2 level 20 equipment, he would definitely stop him from taking away Kikiaman's men. Shui Lingzi turned her head and saw Wu Kadi, Li Mingshan, and the others surrounding her. She couldn't help but sigh. Shui Lingzi was just about to turn around when her eyes suddenly narrowed and she couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Surprisingly, there was even Silver Saber among the crowd. Silver Saber was heavily injured. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be able to stand up and walk over. However, even if he couldn't walk, he could still crawl. Silver Saber was just like that. He clenched his teeth and crawled over. Shui Lingzi looked at Silver Saber crawling over and then looked at Shadowless and the others. She suddenly gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, I agree. I'll give each of you 2 level 20 equipment." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless's face suddenly showed a trace of a smile. He suddenly clapped his hands and said, "Good, you're really straightforward. 6 level 20 equipment and you're willing to take it out just like that. The Tiangongmen really are rich. No one can compare to you, haha." Hearing Shadowless's laughter, Shui Lingzi felt that it was a bit harsh and her heart was extremely uncomfortable. If it wasn't for the Tiangongmen, Shui Lingzi would have said something about fighting to the death with him to vent her anger. At this time, Wu Kedi also came in front of everyone and said with a smile, "Shui Lingzi, if you were this straightforward earlier, we wouldn't have had to do this just now." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, he didn't say anything. Li Shan didn't say anything, but someone else spoke for him. Silver Saber, who was crawling over, barely supporting his body as he angrily shouted, "Shui Lingzi, you're dreaming! If you don't give me that level 25 equipment, I won't let you take away Kikiamen's people." After saying that, Silver Saber took a few deep breaths and crawled towards Sun Xiao. Seeing such a tenacious Silver Saber, Shui Lingzi didn't know what to say. He was already heavily injured, but he was still able to crawl over. This was really amazing. While Shui Lingzi was in a daze, Silver Saber had already crawled in front of Sun Xiao and her. Gritting his teeth and dripping cold sweat, Silver Saber actually slowly stood up. Although his body was still shaking, he really did stand up. Silver Saber wiped the blood from his mouth and violently coughed for a while before saying with a trembling voice, "Shui Lingzi, if you have the ability, then kill me. If you don't, then hurry up and take out the equipment." As soon as Silver Saber's voice fell, Fire Spirit suddenly came to Shui Lingzi's side. "Een Saber, I didn't think you would still be alive. Do you want Grandpa to send you on your way?" Silver Saber coldly laughed. "Fire Spirit, don't talk big. If you have the ability, then send me on my way. If you don't, then don't even think about it." After hearing Silver Saber's words, Fire Spirit was furious. He clenched his fist and was about to kill Silver Saber. Shui Lingzi saw this and quickly reached out to stop him. She said in a low voice, "Fire Spirit, don't do it anymore." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Fire Spirit reacted and immediately took back his fist. He coldly snorted and didn't say anything else. Fire Spirit didn't dare to do anything, but Silver Saber didn't care. He pointed at Fire Spirit and angrily shouted, "Fire Spirit, who are you trying to scare? If you have the ability, then do it." Hearing Silver Saber's words, Fire Spirit was so angry that the veins on his forehead were popping. His breathing became rapid and his heart was beating even faster. Shui Lingzi saw Fire Spirit's expression and quickly pushed him to the side so that he wouldn't have to do anything. Water Spirit pushed Fire Spirit aside and turned to look at Silver Blade. She sighed and said, "Silver Blade, why don't you understand? Even if it's level 20 equipment, our Heaven's Craftsman faction can't take it out so easily. But you insist on level 25 equipment. Aren't you just making things difficult for us?" Silver Saber shook his head and coldly laughed. "Shui Lingzi, you don't have to feel bad. As long as you let Fire Spirit throw a punch, then everything will be solved." After hearing Silver Saber's words, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. She turned to Li Shan and slowly asked, "Li Shan, Silver Saber is a member of your godly saber sect. Don't you care?" Shui Lingzi had already discussed the conditions with Li Shan, but now Silver Saber was stopping her again. Chapter 512. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan froze for a moment. Then, he turned to look at Yin Dao and bitterly smiled in his heart. Yin Dao had already gone crazy. What should he do? Actually, in the depths of Li Shan's heart, he didn't want to do anything. This was because Yin Dao's actions were beneficial to him. If Yin Dao really did get a level 25 equipment, it would be an unexpected harvest. Yin Dao was almost crippled. Even if he got a level 25 equipment, he wouldn't be able to keep it for himself. Wouldn't it become someone else's? And the two brothers were right beside Yin Dao. In other words, no matter what kind of equipment Yin Dao got, the two brothers would be the first to get it. Although the two brothers were already protectors of the Godly Knife faction, such a position was far from enough. Yin Dao wanted to become a disciple of the Godly Knife faction's leader. Li Shan also wanted to take a step forward. As for this level 25 equipment, it was undoubtedly the best stepping stone and pathfinding stone. If Silver Saber obtained this equipment, then the two of them would be the ones who would benefit the most. Therefore, Li Shan didn't want to get involved in this matter. Even if Yin Dao didn't want to do it, he still wanted to encourage him to do it. Thinking of this, Li Shan pretended to frown and bitterly smiled. Water Spirit, you have seen Yin Dao's situation. Even if I am a protector, my words don't seem to have any effect. What can I do? Hearing Li Shan's words, Water Spirit sighed. In other words, you don't care about Yin Dao's actions? Hearing this, Li Shan sternly said, I can ignore Yin Dao's actions, but Yin Dao is still a member of the Godly Knife sect. As the protector of the Godly Knife sect, I must be responsible for his safety. Water Spirit suddenly sneered. I have already given 2 level 20 equipment to the Godly Knife faction. These 2 level 20 equipment are to make the Godly Knife faction not care about this matter. Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, but I have already promised to give you the equipment. Why is Yin Dao still blocking us? Don't tell me that as a protector of the Godly Knife faction, you have no responsibility to care about this matter? Li Mingshan sighed and pointed at the silver knife. Shui Lingzi, as you can see, the silver knife has been sealed. How am I supposed to control it? At this moment, Li Mingshui suddenly spoke up. It's not that we don't want to interfere. These are 2 different matters. We can ignore you taking away Kikyaman's people, but you injured Silver Knife. It seems that you have to explain yourself. Water Spirit sneered. Li Mingshui, what kind of explanation do you want? I've already agreed to give you 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Are you still not satisfied? Li Mingshui shook his head. I'm very satisfied with the 2 pieces of level 20 equipment you gave us. I've decided not to stop you from taking away Kikyaman's men. Speaking up to this point, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. However, the equipment you gave me is only for this matter. You injured Silver Knife, so this matter has to be dealt with separately. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi angrily said, Li Mingshui, didn't you hear that Silver Knife wants a piece of level 25 equipment from me? Li Mingshui helplessly shrugged. Shui Lingzi, I can't do anything about this. You injured Silver Knife, so you have to resolve this matter. Us 2 brothers can't help you. Just as Li Mingshui finished speaking, Fire Spirit suddenly roared and rushed out. Li Mingshui, are you saying that we're going to let Silver Knife cause trouble here? Li Mingshui shook his head. As long as you agree to Silver Knife's conditions, he will naturally be obedient and recuperate. Speaking up to this point, Li Mingshui paused and turned to look at Silver Knife before continuing. Silver Knife, the reason he's still causing trouble is because you didn't agree to his conditions. It has nothing to do with us. Fire Spirit angrily said, What if I end him? Does that have nothing to do with you? Li Mingshui shook his head. This is different. You can talk, but you can't fight. No matter what, Silver Knife is still a disciple of our Godly Knife sect. If something happens to him here, then we can't do anything when we return. Fire Spirit coldly laughed. So you're saying that if I hit him, you'll stop me? Li Mingshui seriously nodded. I've said it before. No matter what, Silver Knife is a disciple of our godly knife sect. We won't allow outsiders to harm our disciples. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Fire Spirit was about to speak, but was interrupted by Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi patted Fire Spirit's shoulder and signaled him to stop talking. Then she turned to Li Mingshui and coldly laughed. Li Mingshui, then tell me, Silver Knife said that he wants a piece of level 25 equipment. How should we negotiate? Li Mingshui shook his head. That's none of my business. How you want to negotiate is your business. It has nothing to do with me. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and suddenly slapped Yin Dao's face with a backhand. Silver Knife was barely standing. After being slapped by Shui Lingzi, he screamed and fell to the ground. Seeing Shui Lingzi suddenly attack, Li Mingshui suddenly grabbed the handle of his knife and angrily said, Shui Lingzi, did you not hear what I just said? Shui Lingzi shook her head and looked at Silver Knife on the ground. Then she coldly laughed and said, I want to see your reaction. Li Mingshan suddenly opened his mouth and said, Shui Lingzi, you don't need to try. If you dare to attack again, my knife will also attack. Shui Lingzi nodded and suddenly kicked Silver Knife. Then she turned to look at Li Mingshan. You see, I didn't attack this time. Li Mingshan's face suddenly became pale. He tightly grabbed the handle of his knife and coldly said, Shui Lingzi, you want me to attack? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshan, don't get too excited. You see, I really didn't attack, right? Seeing this, Li Mingshan's eyes immediately spat out fire. He took a step forward and slowly pulled out his knife. At this moment, a figure flashed and Shadowless blocked in front of him. Li Mingshan, why are you so angry? Shui Lingzi was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Everyone should be peaceful. Li Mingshan turned to look at Shadowless and coldly said, Shadowless, are you speaking for Shui Lingzi? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shadowless hurriedly waved his hand. Li Mingshan, you misunderstood. I'm just advising everyone to talk things out. Don't attack. Hearing this, Li Mingshan pointed at Shui Lingzi and angrily said, Shui Lingzi hit my godly knife sect's disciple in front of me. Is this a misunderstanding? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shadowless turned to Shui Lingzi and asked with a smile, Shui Lingzi, was it a misunderstanding? Shui Lingzi nodded. Misunderstanding, it was definitely a misunderstanding. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Shadowless, why would I hit someone? Chapter 513. Before Shadowless could reply, Li Mingshan had already roared angrily. Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. Tell me, who was it that hit the silver blade? Shui Lingzi shook her head. I didn't hit it, I only used my feet. Hearing this, Li Shan couldn't bear it any longer. Ignoring Wu Ying's attempt to stop him, Li Shan leaped into the air and jumped over Wu Ying. In the next moment, Li Shan's blade flashed and turned into a silver light that slashed towards Shui Lingzi. Li Shan's martial arts were high and he had practiced this saber for 30 years. At this moment, the saber light shined brightly and was as sharp as lightning. In just an instant, the saber light was already not far from Shui Lingzi. Seeing this, Shui Lingzi panicked, but a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. Seeing the blade coming, Shui Lingzi quickly jumped back, wanting to avoid Li Shan's attack. Li Shan's attack was as fast as lightning, and before anyone could react, he had already arrived in front of Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi leapt back and leapt high into the air. Just as Li Mingshan's saber light was about to reach her, she was able to dodge it by the skin of her teeth. Li Shan's blade missed and he sneered. He immediately took a step forward and the blade in his hand shined brightly. Like the autumn wind sweeping the fallen leaves, he swept it towards Shui Lingzi with an unstoppable momentum. Shui Lingzi's action just now had completely angered Li Shan. In this attack, Li Shan used 70% of his strength, vowing to teach Shui Lingzi a lesson. As soon as Shui Lingzi landed, she saw Li Shan's saber coming at her again. Her face was filled with shock as she hurriedly let out a cry and leapt backwards. Seeing Shui Lingzi's quick reaction, Li Shan secretly felt that it was a pity. But he didn't withdraw his blade and instead rushed forward with all his strength. The blade in his hand changed from a horizontal sweep to an upward slash, ready to attack Shui Lingzi in the air. Ah! Stop! Stop! Just as Shui Lingzi jumped up, Li Shan's face suddenly changed and cold sweat flowed down his back. Water Spirit leaped into the air and dodged Li Mingshan's attack, but the silver blade behind her appeared in front of Li Mingshan's eyes as she dodged. Get someone else to do the dirty work. Seeing that the saber was about to hit the silver saber, Li Shan suddenly roared and used all his strength to move the saber away. The saber in Li Shan's hand stuck close to the side of Yin Dao's body. Because of the quick change of movement and the change of strength, Li Shan's body tilted. Under the effect of the original momentum, his whole body hit Yin Dao. This force was unleashed by Li Shan in order to chase after Water Spirit Z, so the force he used was not small. After his figure slammed into Yin Dao let out a miserable howl as the two of them tumbled backwards. Li Shan and Silver Knife rolled on the ground and immediately jumped up. Only Silver Knife was left on the ground, howling. At this time, Li Mingshui also quickly came to Li Shan's side. Big brother, how was it? Li Shan did not answer, but fiercely stared at Shui Lingzi. After a long while, he coldly said, Shui Lingzi, what a good move to kill with a borrowed knife. Really good. Just now, if I was a little bit late, your plan would have succeeded. What a pity. Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi angrily said, Li Shan, it was you who stabbed me, how can you blame me? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, just now, if I was a little bit slower, I'm afraid I would have been cut by your saber. How do you want to settle this account? Li Shan ignored Shui Lingzi and turned his head to check on Yin Dao's injuries. After Yin Dao was hit by Li Shan, he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. The originally heavy injury became even more serious. Not only that, even his left arm was fractured by the force of the impact. Looking at Yin Dao, who was holding his left arm and howling in pain, Li Shan's eyes slowly narrowed. He clenched his teeth tightly, and a wave of anger surged from the bottom of his heart and quickly burst forth. Shui Lingzi, give me your life. Following Li Shan's roar, a dazzling silver light suddenly appeared in front of them. In this dazzling silver light, a blue saber aura was faintly discernible. Saber aura! Seeing this scene, Shui Lingzi was taken aback. Shui Lingzi knew that Li Shan was serious this time. An attack that could release a saber aura was definitely extraordinary. Shui Lingzi did not dare to be negligent. She hurriedly clenched her fists and quickly circulated her Zhen Qi. In just a moment, a mass of Zhen Qi was condensed in front of her. It was also at this time that two figures flashed and appeared in front of Shui Lingzi and Li Shan. Stop! Stop, why do you have to hurt our friendship? It was Wu Kedi and Shadowless. Wu Kedi stopped Li Shan. Li Shan, why are you so angry? Let's talk things over. Shadowless stopped Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, stop, otherwise it will be too late for regrets. Li Shan heard Wu Kedi's words but did not appreciate it. He angrily said, Wu Kedi, get out of the way, otherwise if I hurt you, don't blame me. Wu Kedi hurriedly smiled and said, Li Mingshan, are you here because you're angry? Li Shan angrily said, Shui Lingzi, this old thing actually dared to play tricks with me. If I didn't stop fast enough, I'm afraid I would have fallen into his trap. Shui Lingzi is really too much, I will never let him go. Wu Kedi shook his head and asked in a low voice, Li Shan, can you solve the problem by getting angry? Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, no, not only can it not, but it will also ruin things, you know. Li Shan fiercely stared at Shui Lingzi and coldly said, "Today, no matter what, I have to vent my anger." Wu Kedi sneered, "And then? Even if you do vent your anger, what benefits will you get?" Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan was stunned for a moment before sighing and putting away his sword. Li Shan was very clear that if he had hit Shui Lingzi, not only would he not get any benefits, he would also not be able to go back and report it. If the Godly Knife faction found out that 2 pieces of level 20 equipment had been destroyed by him with a single slash, it would be even worse. Li Shan turned his head and looked at Silverblade. Maybe he would end up like Silverblade. Wu Kedi saw Li Shan put away his sword and also let out a sigh of relief. Wu Kedi came to stop the fight not because he was kind, but because if Shui Lingzi was killed by Li Shan, then who would he ask for the equipment? Although Shui Lingzi was important, the 2 level 20 equipment were even more important. Shadowless and Wu Kedi had the same idea. If Shui Lingzi was killed, then the 2 level 20 equipment would also be gone. Shui Lingzi did not want to fight. He was not like Li Shan who was already furious. He knew what he was doing. Killing with a borrowed knife. That's right, that was what Shui Lingzi wanted to do. Since he couldn't do it himself, then he would let Li Shan do it. Chapter 514. Li Shan looked at Shui Lingzi. Although he was still angry, after listening to Wu Kedi's words, he knew that it was useless to be angry. Speaking up to hear, Li Shan took a step forward and coldly said, "Shui Lingzi, shouldn't you give me an explanation for what you did?" Shui Lingzi heard this and shook her head. "Li Shan, I don't know what you're talking about. What explanation should I give you?" Li Shan sneered, "Shui Lingzi, since you dared to do it, you should have the courage to admit it. Otherwise, what kind of hero are you?" Shui Lingzi shook her head again. "I'm not a hero. I don't know what I did wrong, so I don't know what I should do." Li Shan angrily said, "Shui Lingzi, why are you being so secretive? You want to borrow my hand to kill Yin Dao. Do you think others are fools that can't see it?" Without waiting for Shui Lingzi to speak, Fire Spirit loudly said, "Li Shan, don't talk nonsense. Just now you suddenly attacked my big brother. We haven't even settled this debt with you yet, but you want to settle it with us. Do you really think we Tiangongmen are easy to bully?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan sneered, "I don't know if the Tiangongmen are easy to bully or not, but today I know that the Tiangongmen are very cunning. Borrowing someone else's knife to kill. You really are the heroes of the South region. This one admires you." After saying this, Li Shan cupped his hands towards Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, good job. This one admires you." After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly turned to look at Yin Dao and sighed. Yin Dao's injury was already very serious. Now that he was hit by you, it seems to be even more serious. Speaking up to hear, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Shan, as the protector of the Godly Sword sect, don't you want to see the injuries of your elite disciples? Or is it that the protector of the Godly Sword sect can injure your disciples at will?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan remembered Yin Dao and quickly turned to look at him. When he saw Yin Dao's appearance, he was shocked. Originally, he could barely sit up, but now, he could only lie there and wail. Yin Dao's blood-curdling screams were very miserable and his injuries were very serious. Originally, Shui Lingzi felt pity for him, but now, after hearing Yin Dao's screams, she felt an inexplicable comfortable feeling in her heart. For the sake of that level 25 equipment, Silver Blade had pushed Water Spirit to the brink of giving up on this plan. If Silver Blade had died, it would have saved them a lot of trouble. Shui Lingzi knew that Yin Dao wouldn't last much longer because his eyes had already fallen into a daze. His violent coughing and coughing up blood all proved this. As long as Silver Knife died in Li Mingshan's hands, the equipment issue would naturally be over. Li Mingshan naturally knew this. He quickly walked to Yin Dao's side, squatted down, and softly asked, "Yin Dao, how are you?" Yin Dao covered the place where his ribs were broken and coughed non-stop. While coughing, he kept coughing up blood. With such a serious injury, Yin Dao was about to fall into a coma. In a daze, he heard Li Mingshan's question. After hearing Li Mingshan's voice, Yin Dao's originally relaxed heart suddenly tensed up again. The thoughts in his mind also became clear again. Level 25 equipment, I must get level 25 equipment. Only with level 25 equipment can I become a disciple of the Godly Knife sect master and stand out among my peers. Yin Dao's injury was like a dried-up oil lamp. It was about to run out of oil, but his belief was like the oil. After hearing Li Mingshan's call, the oil once again flowed into the dried-up oil lamp, reigniting his belief. Yin Dao violently coughed a few times. Although his injury was still very serious, his lifeless eyes once again brightened up. Seeing that Yin Dao's eyes had regained their vitality, Li Mingshan was overjoyed and quickly whispered, "Yin Dao, wake up! Wake up!" Following Li Mingshan's call, Yin Dao actually regained consciousness. Although the intense pain made his expression somewhat distorted, his spirit was still very high. "Lord Protector, I'm fine. I still have to settle accounts with Shui Lingzi. If he didn't give me level 25 equipment, I definitely wouldn't have let him take away Kikiaman's people." Seeing that Yin Dao had regained his fighting spirit, Li Mingshan only wanted to laugh to the sky. He originally thought that Yin Dao was finished, but he didn't expect this kid's vitality to be so strong. Li Mingshan was overjoyed, but Shui Lingzi's heart was filled with sorrow. If Yin Dao had been killed by Li Mingshan this time, then the equipment issue would naturally be over. But this kid actually came back to life. This really made her angry and hateful. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi stepped forward and kicked him into a pulp to relieve the hatred in her heart. He was already in such a state, but instead of thinking about healing his injuries, he was still thinking about level 25 equipment. Water Spirit had been in the Heaven's Craftsman Gate for so many years, yet she hadn't obtained a single piece of level 25 equipment. But this brat Silver Knife actually wanted to rely on his injuries to obtain a piece of level 25 equipment. This was simply a dream. However, although Shui Lingzi's heart was filled with hatred, her face didn't change at all. Looking at Li Mingshan, who had already stood up, she suddenly laughed and said, "Li Mingshan, you injured Yin Dao so badly. I think if you don't hurry up and treat him, I'm afraid this elite of the Godly Sword sect will die." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan sneered, "Shui Lingzi, don't say such nonsense. You must be very disappointed right now." Shui Lingzi shook her head and pretended to be confused. "Li Mingshan, why should I be disappointed? Yin Dao isn't a disciple of the Tiangongmen." Li Mingshan stepped forward and faintly said, "Shui Lingzi, if Yin Dao dies, then you naturally won't be responsible for it. You can forget about the compensation." Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan's tone paused for a moment before continuing, "But Yin Dao didn't die. I'm afraid there are still many things between you two to discuss." Haha, speaking up to here, Li Mingshan couldn't help but laugh. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but frown, but very quickly she relaxed again. "Li Mingshan, regarding the equipment, I'm not in a hurry because I have plenty of time. I'll wait here." Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused and turned to look at Yin Dao before continuing, "Although I have time to wait, I don't know if your Godly Sword sect's elite disciple Yin Dao has the time to wait." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan couldn't help but frown. He was very clear that Yin Dao's injuries were very serious. If he didn't hurry up and treat him, he would really die. Chapter 5:15. Silver Knife wanted level 25 equipment. Li Mingshan wanted level 25 equipment even more, so Silver Knife couldn't die. But if he healed Silver Knife's injuries now, then Silver Knife's use would be over. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan was a bit embarrassed. Seeing Li Mingshan not speaking, Shui Lingzi sneered and said, Li Mingshan, you also saw that even if Silver Knife's spirit is very good now, he won't be able to hold on for long. If you want to watch him die, then just watch and see how long Silver Knife can hold on. Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshan didn't know how to respond. Li Mingshui suddenly shouted, Shui Lingzi, our godly knife sex matter, how can you Tiangongman interfere? Saving Silver Knife is our godly knife sex matter, so please don't meddle in other people's business. Shui Lingzi nodded. Okay, then I won't meddle in your business. Let's see who can take down who first. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, don't forget, the reason why Silver Knife died was because of Li Mingshan. I hope you all remember this. Hearing this, Li Mingshui flew into a rage. He pointed at Shui Lingzi and said, Shui Lingzi, you tell me clearly, who was it that harmed Yin Dao? If it weren't for your tricks, how could my big brother have accidentally injured Yin Dao? This is all your fault. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshui, what you said is wrong. Everyone here is watching, it was your big brother who attacked me first. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, Li Mingshui, it's not like you don't know your big brother's martial arts. Under his sneak attack, how many of us here could safely escape? To be honest, if it wasn't for my good luck, I'm afraid I would have already been killed by your big brother. Now you're saying that it was a trick, then tell me the evidence. In that kind of life and death situation, who could do this? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was stunned and Li Mingshui was also speechless. Li Shan's slash was filled with anger, so its power couldn't be underestimated. Its speed was even more astonishing. It was simply impossible to calculate so many things in such a short time. Li Mingshan looked at Shui Lingzi and thought to himself, could it be that Shui Lingzi was really innocent? Just now, he was only trying to dodge his attack and didn't want to borrow a knife to kill him. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan suddenly felt a little apologetic. He misunderstood Shui Lingzi and thought that he did it intentionally. Among all these people, only Shui Lingzi was sneering in her heart. From the moment he came to Yin Dao's side, he had already started calculating. Water Spirit had no way to break out of Yin Dao's trap. Silver Knife was a madman. Even if you tried to reason with him, how could a madman try to reason with you? The only thing left in Silver Knife's mind was the level 25 equipment. Other than that, there was nothing else. In order to successfully complete his mission, he had to get rid of Silver Knife to break out of this situation. Shui Lingzi had already understood this point, so from the moment he came to Yin Dao's side, he had already started calculating. Shui Lingzi took 4 steps back from Yin Dao's side and deliberately provoked Li Mingshan. After Li Mingshan attacked, he took 4 steps back and stood in front of Yin Dao. Moreover, Shui Lingzi had already predicted that Li Mingshan would chase after him, so he jumped up at the last moment. His goal was naturally to make Yin Dao appear in front of Li Mingshan. This plan was perfect. The only imperfection was that Li Shan didn't hurt Silver Knife, but only hurt him. However, even though the plan wasn't perfect, it was enough. Looking at Yin Dao's injuries, Shui Lingzi estimated that Yin Dao wouldn't be able to stop for long before he died. If Li Mingshan healed Yin Dao's injuries, then everything would be fine. Even if he had to compensate, it wouldn't be the level 25 equipment. If Li Mingshan didn't heal Yin Dao's injuries, then it didn't matter. Shui Lingzi had plenty of time to wait for Yin Dao to die. Once Yin Dao died, then Shui Lingzi wouldn't have to take too much responsibility. After all, Li Mingshan was the one who dealt the final blow. So, no matter what happened next, it would be beneficial to Shui Lingzi. Seeing Li Mingshan still hesitating, Shui Lingzi suddenly said, Li Mingshan, Are you really not willing to heal Yindao? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth. Although he wanted that level 25 equipment in front of so many people, he couldn't just watch the godly blade sect's disciple die in front of him. So, Li Mingshan decided to heal Yindao. As for the level 25 equipment, he would have to wait for an opportunity. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan turned to look at Yindao and coldly said, "Yindao, let me heal you." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yindao struggled on the ground for a while, but couldn't get up. He could only lie there and say, "No need. If Shui Lingzi isn't willing to compensate me for the equipment, then I won't let anyone heal me." Hearing Yindao's words, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. This kid was too ruthless. For the level 25 equipment, he was willing to give up his life. Everyone could see that Yindao's injuries were too serious. If he didn't hurry up and heal him, then he wouldn't be able to last much longer. But even so, Yindao still refused Li Mingshan's good intentions. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and said, "Yindao, don't insist. If you insist, your injuries, I'm afraid," cough cough. Before Li Mingshan could finish, he was interrupted by Yindao's violent coughing. After the coughing subsided, Yindao gasped for breath and said, "No. No, unless Shui Lingzi agrees to my conditions, I will never treat his injuries." Hearing Yindao's words, Shui Lingzi's heart was suddenly filled with anger. She took a step forward and said coldly, "Yindao, what are you doing? You know that I won't give you the level 25 equipment, but you still insist. Don't you know that you are making things difficult for me and for yourself? Yindao, do you understand my words?" Towards the end, Shui Lingzi was almost shouting. This also showed how angry she was. It was good for people to be ambitious, but they also had to have a sense of propriety. Perhaps everyone knew that no matter how much Yindao insisted, he wouldn't be able to get the level 25 equipment he dreamed of. But Yindao still insisted, which made Shui Lingzi very angry. Chapter 5:16. Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Yindao's eyes suddenly widened as he fiercely stared at Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, what nonsense are you talking about? You don't need to care about my business. You should think about how to give me level 25 equipment." Shui Lingzi shook her head. "Yindao, I don't have it. Don't you understand that it's impossible for you to get level 25 equipment?" Yindao suddenly asked, "Shui Lingzi, what if you can't take away Kikiaman's people?" Hearing Yindao's words, Shui Lingzi froze for a moment before she turned her head to look at Yindao and coldly said, "Yindao, this is my business, you don't need to care about it." Yindao ignored Shui Lingzi's words and coldly said, "Shui Lingzi, in fact, even if you don't say it, I already know that if you can't take back Kikiaman's people, I'm afraid your ending won't be any better." Speaking up to here, Yindao paused for a moment before continuing, "Shui Lingzi, in my opinion, if you can't take back Kikiaman's people, then even if it's you, I'm afraid you won't be able to stay in the Tiangongmen." Hearing Yindao's words, Shui Lingzi angrily said, "Yindao, don't talk nonsense. Even if I can't take back Kikiaman's people, it's not a big problem. How can I not be able to stay in the Tiangongmen?" Yindao once again let out a cold laugh. "Shui Lingzi, you don't need to lie to me. If it's really not a big problem, would you still be here talking to me?" Shui Lingzi coldly said, "Why not?" Yindao heard this and disdainfully shook his head. "The matter of taking away Kikiaman, I can see that it's very urgent and very important. Before such an important matter, you still have the leisure to talk to me. Do you think I'll believe you?" Hearing Yindao's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and took a deep breath before continuing, "Yindao, you are right. Taking away Kikiaman is indeed very important and I must take them away today, but why am I still talking to you?" Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused and turned to look at Yindao. His eyes lit up and after a while, he continued, because when I saw you, I knew you were a great talent, so I wanted to have a talk with you. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but you're just like me back then. Both of you are ambitious and eager to stand out. In fact, I can even see my own shadow in you. Water Spirit turned to look at Yin Dao, and after a long while, she suddenly asked in a low voice, Yin Dao, I want to accept you as my disciple, are you willing? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao was stunned and didn't recover for a long time. On the side, Li Mingshan couldn't bear it anymore and snapped out. Shui Lingzi, what are you trying to do? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Nothing, I'm just lamenting, really nothing. Li Mingshan angrily said, Shui Lingzi, you snatched our godly blade sect's disciple in front of me, and you still dare to say nothing to me. Do you think I, Li Mingshan, am a fool? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi sighed. Li Mingshan, do you know, when I first entered the Tiangongmen, I was just like Yin Dao, anxious, trying to get the recognition of others, that kind of helplessness. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused and turned to look at Yin Dao, and after a long while, she continued, At that time, I was just like Yin Dao now, with the same kind of thoughts, trying to fight for a future for myself. Hearing this, Li Mingshan's face turned livid, and he couldn't bear it any more and roared, interrupting Shui Lingzi's words. Shui Lingzi, that's enough, if you continue to talk nonsense, don't blame me for being impolite. Shui Lingzi turned to look at Li Mingshan and sighed again. Li Mingshan, Yin Dao is indeed a talent, am I wrong? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan clenched his teeth and took a deep breath, calming his irritable mood, and slowly said, Shui Lingzi, don't play tricks in front of me, or else my blade won't forgive you. Shui Lingzi frowned. Li Mingshan, you're from the Godly Blade sect, and I'm from the Tiangongmen, we belong to two different sections. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment, then continued, Also, I don't think I've heard of people from other sections. Is it a matter of another sect? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan stepped forward and stared at Shui Lingzi for a long while, then slowly said, Shui Lingzi, my patience has a bottom line, don't provoke me, I'm telling you, my blade isn't something you can block. Shui Lingzi coldly said, Li Mingshan, you're trying to scare me. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment, then took a step forward and continued, Li Mingshan, do you think I'm afraid of you? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan grabbed the handle of his blade and coldly said, Shui Lingzi, do you want to try? Shui Lingzi shook her head. No, I don't want to try whether your blade is fast or not. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan let go of his blade and let out a long sigh. He didn't want to fight with Shui Lingzi. After suffering a loss from her, he didn't want to fight with her even more. Li Mingshan and Shui Lingzi didn't have any enmity, nor did they have any grudges. The only problem was the level 25 equipment that Yin Dao wanted. Just now, Li Mingshan couldn't allow Shui Lingzi to continue with her words. In fact, Li Mingshan was very clear-headed. He knew that it was almost impossible to get the level 25 equipment that Yin Dao wanted. However, as long as there was a chance, Yin Dao wouldn't give up, and neither would Li Mingshan. If he could really get his hands on that legendary level 25 equipment, then Li Mingshan would have made a fortune. The most important thing was that even if he couldn't get that level 25 equipment, even a level 20 equipment would be good. Don't think that level 20 equipment wasn't anything special. In fact, many people haven't seen level 20 equipment in their entire life. Therefore, Li Mingshan didn't want to fight with Shui Lingzi, because no matter who won or lost, it wouldn't benefit him. If Shui Lingzi won, then she wouldn't give him anything. Now that Water Spirit had lost, if she flew into a rage out of humiliation and turned around to leave, that would be bad. Even the level 20 equipment that was already in his hands would be gone. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan put away his blade, looked at Shui Lingzi, and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, it's better that we don't fight, everyone can be friendly, isn't that good? Listening to Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi nodded with a smile. Yes, we only talk and don't fight, that's really good, I've always praised everyone for doing that. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, so, I also only talk and don't fight. Li Mingshan, am I right? Chapter 5:17. Li Mingshan heard Shui Lingzi's words and paused for a moment. Then, he nodded but didn't say anything. Shui Lingzi smiled and said, So, I only talked to Yin Dao and didn't make a move. Hearing this, Li Mingshan couldn't help but frown. Shui Lingzi, what do you want? Shui Lingzi smiled and nodded. Li Mingshan, you said it yourself. We only talked and didn't make a move. Did you see me make a move? Li Mingshan gritted his teeth and shook his head. You didn't, but, before Li Mingshan could finish his words, he was interrupted by Shui Lingzi. Since I didn't make a move and only talked, why did you make a move? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan's anger suddenly surged and he snapped. Shui Lingzi, don't play tricks with me. Do you think I don't know what you were doing? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshan, did I make a move? This time, without waiting for Li Mingshan to answer, Li Mingshui already shouted. Shui Lingzi, you dare to rob our godly sword sect's disciple? What are your intentions? Shui Lingzi shook her head again and said coldly, Is Yin Dao from your godly sword sect? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi didn't wait for Li Mingshui to answer and continued. How come I didn't see it? Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing. If Yin Dao was from our Tiangongman would have already treated his injuries. How could we just watch his injuries get worse and worse without doing anything? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshui and Li Mingshan's eyes became livid. After a while, Li Mingshan said coldly, Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. Didn't you see that I was about to treat Yin Dao's injuries? Shui Lingzi shook her head. No, I didn't see anything. I only saw Yin Dao's injuries getting worse and worse. Other than that, I didn't see anything. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshui angrily said, If it weren't for you refusing to compensate for Yin Dao's equipment, how could we not treat him? In the end, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Yin Dao wouldn't have suffered such heavy injuries. Water Spirit heard this and sneered. When we injured Yin Dao, he wasn't injured like this. If it wasn't for Li Shan's sneak attacking me, how could Yin Dao's injuries be so serious? Li Mingshui shouted, Shui Lingzi, this is all part of your scheme. My big brother was tricked by you and accidentally injured the silver knife. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi shook her head and said, Let's not talk about who injured Yin Dao. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao has already suffered such a heavy injury, but as the protectors of the Godly Blade sect, you're just watching Yin Dao get injured and not treating him. Have you done your duty as protectors? Li Mingshui pointed at Yin Dao and angrily said, I wanted to treat Yin Dao's injuries, but he refused, so I didn't treat him. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao's tone paused for a moment, then he sneered and continued, Shui Lingzi, if you had compensated for Yin Dao's equipment earlier, he wouldn't have refused to let me treat his injuries. Shui Lingzi sneered, In the end, is this all my fault? Li Mingshui looked at Shui Lingzi and said word by word, As long as you are willing to compensate for Yin Dao's equipment, he will definitely agree to let us treat his injuries. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi shook her head. I don't have any. Not to mention level 25 equipment, I don't even have level 20 equipment. What can I use to compensate? Li Mingshui sneered, Shui Lingzi, it's your problem if you can't take out the equipment. You can think of a way, it has nothing to do with us. As long as you don't take out the equipment, Yin Dao will definitely not let us treat his injuries. If anything happens to Yin Dao, it will all be because of you. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, I sympathize with you. I didn't think that the protectors of the Godly Blade sect would be this kind of person. For a piece of equipment they would even disregard their own disciples. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, according to Li Mingshui's expectations, Yin Dao would immediately refute and ask for the level 25 equipment. However, Yin Dao remained silent and didn't say a word. Seeing this scene, Li Mingshui was a bit worried. He knew that Shui Lingzi's words must have had an effect. Thinking of this, Li Mingshui shouted at Yin Dao, don't be afraid. As long as we are here, we will definitely support you. Don't forget, the Godly Blade sect is standing behind you. If anything happens, the Godly Blade sect will definitely not stand by and watch. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Shui Lingzi turned her head and angrily said, Li Mingshui, what do you mean by this? Are you going to support your disciples extorting others? Li Mingshui shook his head. We don't care what our disciples do, we will support them. Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Yin Dao's eyes gradually lit up. He turned to look at Shui Lingzi and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, thank you for your words. However, you also heard that I am a disciple of the Godly Blade sect. I will always be a disciple of the Godly Blade sect. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, so, Shui Lingzi, the conditions we discussed just now still count. I hope you can take out the level 25 equipment as soon as possible. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi nodded. Yin Dao, have you thought it through? Yin Dao sneered, Shui Lingzi, I have thought it through. You want to trick me into letting you go this time. Am I right? Speaking up to here, Yin Dao suddenly clenched his teeth and his eyes became cold. Shui Lingzi, you said that we are the same kind of people. If we were in each other's shoes, I would also use all kinds of methods to complete this mission. Silver Knife sighed. Unfortunately, you also said that we're the same kind of people, so you can't lie to me. I know what you're trying to say, so don't say anything more. Hurry up and take out that level 25 equipment. We'll go our separate ways. Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao and gnashed her teeth. This Yin Dao was too hateful. No matter what she said, he wouldn't back down. Shui Lingzi was very clear that she wasn't a person like Yin Dao, because she knew very well what she could get and how to get it. Yin Dao didn't know these things. He was always dreaming of unrealistic things. Thinking up to here, Shui Lingzi sighed. Yin Dao, if I said that you misunderstood me, would you believe me? Yin Dao sneered. Shui Lingzi, do you think I would believe you? Shui Lingzi nodded. You must believe me because what I said is true. Chapter 518. After listening to Water Spirit's words, Silver Knife sneered and slowly said, Water Spirit, if you want me to believe you, then give me that level 25 equipment and I will naturally believe you. If you don't take out that equipment, then you are lying to me. Water Spirit clenched her teeth, suppressing her anger as she looked up at the silver blade and sighed. Silver Knife, why do you still not understand even after saying so much? Level 25 equipment, needless to say, I don't have it. Even Tiangongmen wouldn't be able to take it out in a short period of time. Where do you want me to go to make you level 25 equipment? Silver Knife shook his head. Suddenly, a wave of discomfort surged from his stomach, causing him to cough violently. Looking at the blood coming out of Silver Knife's mouth, Water Spirit didn't know what to feel. Looking at Silver Knife's current state, with her many years of experience, she knew that Silver Knife wouldn't last much longer. Was this a good thing or a bad thing? If Silver Knife died now, then she wouldn't have to care about that equipment anymore. But Silver Knife was still alive. Seeing him disappear in front of her eyes, Water Spirit couldn't bear it. Looking at the coughing Silver Knife, Water Spirit sighed and slowly said, Silver Knife, don't you understand? There are some things we can do, but there are some things we can't get even if we do it. So why do we have to do it? Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Just like this time, you clearly know that you can't get a level 25 equipment, but you still stubbornly insist on getting that level 25 equipment. The gains don't make up for the losses. If you change your condition, such as a level 10 equipment or a level 15 equipment or even a level 20 equipment, I might give it to you since you are so ambitious. But a level 25 equipment, not only can you not get it, even I can't get it. So why do you still have to set such an impossible condition? Silver Knife tried to straighten his back because of the coughing. There was a trace of blood on his mouth. Water Spirit, don't make it sound so nice, as if you are doing it for me. Do you think I don't know your true purpose? Cough cough. Speaking of this, Dao coughed violently again. This time, the coughing was so severe that his body, which was originally standing up, fell to the ground because of the cough. The Silver Knife fell to the ground, causing him to scream in pain. Then, it caused him to cough even more violently. This time, his cough was too severe. It was probably because his broken ribs had pierced his internal organs, causing him to cough even more violently. Water Spirit looked at Silver Saber lying on the ground. Because of the violent coughing, Silver Saber's body was bent, and she didn't know whether she should sympathize with him or hate him. A stubborn fellow who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth actually dared to dream of reaching the heavens in a single step and becoming the disciple of the godly Saber-Sex patriarch. Shui Lingzi was sure that with Dao's temper, even if he really became a disciple of the godly Saber-Sex sect master, he wouldn't have any great development. Looking at the coughing Dao, Water Spirit turned to Li Shan and sighed. Li Shan, if you don't hurry up and treat him, I'm afraid it really will be too late. Seeing this, Li Shan was about to walk towards Dao, but he was stopped by Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui took a step forward and stood in front of Water Spirit, and said in a deep voice, Water Spirit, what about the conditions you guys discussed just now? If we go treat him now, isn't it a bit too early? Water Spirit looked at Li Mingshui in a daze. After a while, she suddenly said coldly, Dao is your godly Saber-Sex disciple. Whether you want to save him or not is your own business. You guys decide, don't ask me anymore. After saying this, Water Spirit took 2 steps back and left Li Mingshui's line of sight. Water Spirit had already made up her mind to not care about this matter anymore. As for Dao's life and death, it would depend on his fate. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui was also stunned. He turned his head and looked at Dao on the ground, and his heart began to hesitate. Dao was in a very bad condition. Up until now, his coughing showed no signs of stopping. If it continued like this, Dao would die from coughing. Li Mingshui and Li Shan looked at each other and nodded slightly. Li Mingshui took 2 steps forward and came to Dao's side. He reached out and put his hand on Dao's shoulder, and a stream of Zhen Qi immediately flowed from his wrist to Dao's body. In just a short period of time, this powerful Zhen Qi flowed through Dao's body. Soon, Dao's coughing lessened a lot, and the painful expression on his face also calmed down a lot. Seeing that Dao was fine for the time being, Li Mingshui slowly let go of his hand and said in a deep voice, Dao, I have stabilized your injuries. Li Mingshui didn't say anything superfluous. He just said this and immediately took a step back, increasing the distance between him and Dao. Li Mingshui was very clear that this was Dao's stage, so he would let him play to his heart's content. Sure enough, things were just as Li Mingshui thought. Dao's injuries had just healed, and his spirit had just recovered. He immediately turned his head to look at Water Spirit and roared, Water Spirit, hurry up and take out level 25 equipment, or else I won't let you off. Hearing Dao's roar, Water Spirit only silently turned her head and didn't answer. Water Spirit was very clear that even if Yin Dao's injuries were temporarily under control, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. It wouldn't be long before he fell down again. Therefore, Water Spirit decided not to waste any more word. She decided to use another tactic, which was to wait. When Yin Dao really couldn't hold on anymore, she would come out. After Yin Dao regained his spirit, he immediately began to roar at Water Spirit. But over and over again, he only said the same few words. Water Spirit, hurry up and give me my level 25 equipment. You scoundrel, you tricked me into giving you my level 25 equipment. Water Spirit, if you don't give me my level 25 equipment, I won't be polite anymore. Listening to Yin Dao's nonsense, Water Spirit couldn't help but sneer in her heart. Yin Dao's injuries were so heavy, yet he still dared to say such arrogant words, saying that he wouldn't let her off. She really didn't know where his courage came from. Although Water Spirit's temper was relatively good, but being scolded by such a nameless junior, she still felt a bit embarrassed. But after all, she was old and had enough patience. Even if Yin Dao kept roaring, she still clenched her teeth and endured. Yin Dao saw that after shouting for so long, Water Spirit didn't say a word, so he paused for a moment and rested. When Yin Dao had rested enough, he suddenly turned his head to Sun Xiaoer and loudly said, Chapter 519. Yin Dao turned to look at Sun Xiaoer and suddenly said, Sect Leader Sun, you guys go, I'll stop Shui Lingzi. Yin Dao paused and took a few deep breaths before continuing, as long as I'm here, Shui Lingzi won't dare to do anything to you. Hearing Yin Dao's words, everyone was shocked. No one had expected things to turn out this way. Shadowless turned to look at Li Shan Shan and frowned. Li Shan Shan, what's going on? Li Shan Shan smiled bitterly and shook his head. How would I know? I can't control him. Hearing Li Shan Shan's answer, Shadowless clenched his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. After watching for so long, everyone knew that Yin Dao had gone crazy. What a crazy person did, there was no way to explain it. Shadowless looked at Silver Blade, who stood up again. He looked at Silver Blade's face, which was distorted due to the severe pain. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Because of Yin Dao's words, the originally chaotic scene became silent. Everyone knew that Yin Dao was just a small character. Everyone here could take him down with a single finger. However, everyone also knew that the reason why Shui Lingzi couldn't do anything to Yin Dao was because behind him stood the Li brothers, and behind the Li brothers was the huge godly sword sect. Here, no matter who wanted to deal with Yin Dao, especially in this kind of situation, it would cause unnecessary trouble. Although everyone wasn't afraid of trouble, no one wanted to provoke unnecessary trouble. Jiang Hu was dangerous. Who would want to put themselves in more danger? Shui Lingzi didn't want to, Shadowless didn't want to, and Wu Kudi didn't want to either. If they wanted to deal with a small character like Yin Dao after today, they could use any kind of reason, any kind of method, to get rid of him easily. But not today. After a moment of silence, the first one to react was Sun Xiaoer. Sun Xiaoer saw that no one had any reaction and was overjoyed. She waved her hand at the people behind her and said loudly, Let's go! Wait! As soon as Sun Xiaoer's voice fell, before anyone could move, Water Spirit let out an angry roar. Shui Lingzi quickly arrived in front of Sun Xiaoer's team and loudly said, Sect Master Sun, I said that you must come back with me today and solve the matter of Sect Master Han. As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, before Sun Xiaoer could reply, Yin Dao moved a few steps forward and stood in front of Shui Lingzi, sneering as he spoke. Shui Lingzi, if you want to stop the convoy, you need to ask for my permission first. At this point, Yin Dao paused and turned to look at Sun Xiaoer before continuing, Sect Master Sun, as long as I'm here, Water Spirit won't dare do anything to you. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi slowly turned her head and angrily said, Yin Dao, do you really want to go against the Tiangongmen? Yin Dao shook his head. It's not that I want to go against the Tiangongmen, it's you who injured me and didn't want to compensate me. It's your fault, it's your fault. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and slowly said, Yin Dao, I'll only say this once. 1 level 20 equipment. If you agree, then quickly move to the side. If you don't agree, then there's nothing I can do. Hearing Shui Lingzi's condition, Yin Dao didn't even think about it and shook his head. No, I only want level 25 equipment. I don't want anything else. Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and suddenly said in a low voice, Yin Dao, why are you doing this? Even if I give you a level 50 equipment, do you think you can get it? Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, do you know why Li Shan and his brother support you? It's because they also want that piece of equipment. I can clearly tell you that even if I give you a piece of level 50 equipment, it will still fall into the hands of the Li brothers. As for you, I'm afraid you won't be able to get anything. Yin Dao, don't tell me you don't understand this simple logic? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, a trace of hesitation flashed in Yin Dao's eyes. He turned his head to look at the Li brothers and then looked back at Shui Lingzi and said word by word. No, Lord Protector wouldn't do this. They wouldn't rob an ordinary disciple like me. Shui Lingzi sighed. Yin Dao, do you know why the Li brothers support you? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, a trace of gratitude flashed in Yin Dao's eyes. It's because Lord Protector saw my sincerity and decided to help me. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi's hands couldn't help but violently tremble. She had the urge to go up and give Yin Dao 2 slaps. But Shui Lingzi didn't do so. She was very clear that doing so would be useless. Shui Lingzi thought for a moment before slowly saying, Yin Dao, think about it carefully. In normal times, have your brothers been so good to you? Hearing this, Yin Dao froze for a moment before shaking his head. Normally, Lord Protector would be very strict with us in order to speed up our cultivation. But now is different. Speaking of this, Yin Dao paused for a second before continuing, but it's different now. We're not in Heaven's Craftsman sect, and it's not the time for cultivation. Of course, Lord Protector will treat us better. Shui Lingzi shook her head. I can tell you that this isn't the reason. It's because you are now of value. As long as you are alive, they can exchange you for equipment. That's why the Li brothers are protecting you. Hearing this, Yin Dao suddenly became angry. He turned his head to look at Shui Lingzi and sternly shouted, You're talking nonsense. Lord Protector is wholeheartedly doing this for me. How could it be like what you said? You're clearly trying to sow discord between us to achieve your hidden goal. At this point, Silver Knife paused for a moment, his expression turning cold. Water Spirit, let me tell you, it's useless to say all that. You should think about how you're going to get that level 25 equipment to compensate me. Shui Lingzi shook her head. I don't. I already said that I don't have level 25 equipment. How can I compensate you? Yin Dao sneered. That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me. As long as you injured me, you must compensate me according to my conditions. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath. After slowly exhaling, she softly asked, Yin Dao, let me ask you. If you injured someone and needed compensation, and that person wanted the blade of your godly blade sex patriarch, would you agree to his conditions? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Yin Dao shook his head. That's impossible. The godly blade sex patriarch is extremely noble. How could he use his blade to compensate? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.